We call the board meeting for Tuesday, January the 9th to order. I'd ask that you please rise for the opening prayer led by Dr. Fred Shackelford from Ellendale Baptist Church, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Father God, we come to you today just in need of your wisdom and your grace. Lord, we certainly pray for that. We pray, Lord, just for your goodness to us by giving us those things. We thank you, Lord, for a community in which we can voice our preferences and concerns. Lord, we thank you for people that are passionate about this great city of Bartlett. Lord, I do pray just for, by your grace, a calm spirit, Lord, a spirit of community, knowing that every one of us in here wants what is best for this city. Lord, thank you for your love, for your goodness to us in this city that we call Bartlett. And it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, I'd ask that you read the future meetings into the record, please.
Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, January 11th at 6 p.m. Bartlett Arts Council, January 16th at 6 p.m. Bartlett Performing Arts and Conference Center Advisory Board, January 16th at 6 p.m. Design Review Commission, January 16th at 6:30 p.m. The Board of Zoning Appeals, scheduled for January 18th at 6:30, has been canceled. Historic Preservation Commission, January 22nd at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any way there's a Boy Scout hid out there in the crowd somewhere? If you are, stand up, son, and we recognize you. Not seeing nobody stand up. We'll move to the official business of the day. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the December 19th Mayor Board of Aldermen meeting.
Move we approve.
Been properly motioned and second. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, please go to your device and cast your vote for the minutes. Minutes are approved unanimously. We now move to the public hearing. Individuals will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak, either for or against an item, with a total of 20 minutes on each side. Madam Clerk, will you read the first item, number 1, Ordinance 2308, into the record, please?
Ordinance 23-08, an ordinance to amend the City of Bartlett zoning ordinance by amending Article 1, Section 2, definitions to add smoke shop and tobacco store, and to amend Article 5, Chart 1, uses permitted to add smoke shops and tobacco stores in certain zoning districts with a special use permit.
Ms. Kim, the Director of our zoning.
Ordinance 2308 is an ordinance to amend our City of Bartlett zoning ordinance. It will add the definition of smoke shop and tobacco store. It would also add to our use chart where smoke shops and tobacco stores will have to obtain a special use permit. We will also add a definition for smoke shops and tobacco stores to the ordinance. This item went before the Planning Commission on December 4th, 2023, and it comes to you with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Ms. Taylor? Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Any of those wish to speak in favor of the ordinance, please come to the podium. State your name and address for the record, please. Seeing no one coming forward to speak in favor, now those who wish to speak in opposition, please come to the microphone. Seeing no one come wishing to speak in opposition, Madam Clerk, we move to item number 2.
Adjourned at 6:05. Ordinance 2309, an ordinance to amend City of Bartlett zoning ordinance by amending Article 1, Section 2, definitions to add hookah lounge and other smoking lounges, and to amend Article 5, Chart 1, uses permitted to add hookah lounges and other smoking lounges in the CH Highway Business Zoning District with a special use permit.
Again, Mr. Kim Taylor.
Again, ordinance 2309 is an ordinance to amend the City of Bartlett zoning ordinance. It will add the definition of hookah lounge and other smoking lounges to the zoning ordinance. It will require a special use permit in the CH Highway Business Zoning District, and it will also add an additional line to the use chart for the special use permit requirement.
Thank you, excuse me.
This went before the Planning Commission on December 4th, 2023, and it comes to you with a favorable recommendation. Thank you.
Any member of the board have any questions for Ms. Taylor? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Taylor. Those wishing to speak in favor of ordinance 2309, please come to the mic at the time. Seeing no one come forward, those wishing to speak in opposition, please come to the microphone at this time. Chair sees no one coming to be recognized in opposition or favor, so we will adjourn ordinance 23, public hearing for ordinance 2309. Madam Clerk, got to get you to read item number 3 into the record, please.
Ordinance 23-10, an ordinance to amend the City of Bartlett zoning ordinance by amending Article 1, Section 2, definitions to add small box retail stores, liquidation stores, and liquidation warehouse sellers, and to amend Article 5, Chart 1, uses permitted to add small box retail stores, retail stores, and liquidation warehouse sellers to certain zoning districts with a special use permit, and to add Article 6, supplementary district regulations, Section 31, small box retail stores.
Again, you're recognized, Ms. Taylor.
Ordinance 2310 is an ordinance to amend the City of Bartlett zoning ordinance by adding the definition of small box retail stores, liquidation stores, and liquidation warehouse sellers. This will also require a special use permit within both the CG, which is general business, and the CH, general highway zoning districts. This will also add an additional line to the zoning use chart, and as well as the supplementary regulations, which will have, in summary, these types of stores must be spaced 2 miles apart. There will be no outdoor displays or storage, and there will be no sales of secondhand goods. This item went to the Planning Commission on December 4th, 2023, and it comes to you with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, those in the audience that wish to come and speak in favor of ordinance 2310, please come to the microphone at this time. Seeing no one come forward, those who wish to speak in opposition, please come. Seeing no one wishing to come forward, we will adjourn the public hearing for ordinance 23-10. Moving to item number 4, Madam Clerk, will you read into the record, please?
Ordinance 23-11, an ordinance amending Title II, Chapter 6, Section 2-601, membership of the codified ordinances of the City of Bartlett, Tennessee, to be consistent with state law by permitting a person designated by the mayor to serve on the Planning Commission in lieu of the mayor.
For explanation, our City Attorney, Mr. Ed McKinney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the clerk just said what the explanation was. This is simply to make our ordinance consistent with state law that allows the mayor to designate another person besides himself to sit on the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Thank you, Mr. McKinney. Anyone wishing to come and speak in favor of ordinance 23-10? Seeing no one coming forward, anyone wish to come speak in opposition of ordinance 2310? Seeing no one wishing to be recognized, we will adjourn the public hearing for ordinance 23-10. Madam Clerk, I'd ask that you read item number 5 into the record, please.
Yes, that's correct. That was 2311.
Oh, did I say something? Oh, I'm sorry. 2311.
Ordinance 23-12, an ordinance to amend Title II, Chapter 5, Section 501, City Beautiful Commission of the City of Bartlett Code of Ordinances to stagger the terms of members serving on the City Beautiful Commission.
Mr. Ed McKinney, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City Beautiful Commission, for whatever reason, everybody has to be appointed every year, and that's not efficient. So we're trying to change this to stagger the terms to be consistent with what the other commissions are like.
Thank you, Mr. McKinney. Those wishing to speak in favor, please come to the microphone at this time. Seeing no one wishing to come forward In favor? Those in opposition? Seeing no one wishing to speak in opposition, we will adjourn ordinance for 23-12 at this time and move to item number 6. But before we, Madam Clerk, would you read item number 6 into the record, please?
Managed services for the Bartlett Public Library.
Before we open it to the public hearing, I'd ask that the Memphis Public Library, we have someone represented. Do we have a representative? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Gale, please come to the microphone. State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Gay Kane, 3755 Hawks Hollow Cove, Bartlett. Good evening, and thank you for having us. I'm representing Memphis Public Library. I'm the Assistant Director of Strategic Partnerships with Memphis Public Library, and I have also managed the Bartlett Library from 1999 to 2015 and was part of the original contract process. So I'm hoping I can help you with your decision this evening. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm not going to go over all of the benefits of the Bartlett Library staying with the Memphis Public Library system. I know you've seen that presentation. I know that Kia Armstrong, the manager of the Bartlett Library, has also emailed a presentation reiterating all of the benefits of our partnership. And I'm sure that the citizens here tonight that will speak on behalf of the library, MPL partnership, Bartlett partnership, will reiterate some of those benefits for you. So I am addressing the most important issue that you all have, which is the concern about the money that has not been spent as expected. Bartlett has paid some funds to Memphis Public Libraries for materials, and you have not received those materials. I know that you all are expecting a number tonight, and I have been asked to look into that number. I do not want to give you some random number. I want to give you something accurate. I am digging through invoices. I'm digging through records. I'm going back and figuring out what exactly was carried over from each fiscal year so that I can determine an accurate number for you. So what I am here tonight to do is to commit to having you that number in 30 days. And at that time, when we have an exact, accurate number of the amount of funds that we need to replenish to Bartlett, whether it be in materials or in any other capacity, I will have that number for you within 30 days, and at that time, regardless of your vote here, we will figure out how to get that money back to you. We have had some issues selecting, acquiring, and processing materials, and that big issue is not specific to Bartlett. It's an issue that's for the entire library system. We've recently completed a lean library management study with a private consultant and have worked out some procedures that we think will remedy the problem. I am certain that we will be able to get materials on the shelf in the libraries more quickly. And should we move forward with our partnership, I do not foresee a problem with actually spending your current fiscal year funds. And like I said, we will go back and figure out how you want us to make up for what we determined we've not given you. Any questions?
Thank you. This is a public hearing. The board's able to ask any questions. No discussion among the board, but if any board members has a question they'd like to ask, Alderman Reeves, you're recognized.
Thank you for coming down, and I appreciate you for standing in front of us. I know it can be difficult. Why can't we get an answer on what the number is? And the reason why I ask that is that, has this been happening for years? Okay.
I'll give you a little bit of history. I didn't want to come up here and make a ton of excuses, but I'm glad you asked the question because I really wanted to outline this. This contract and this partnership has worked great since 2004, 2005. We were charging the city of Bartlett exactly what we were spending on materials for quite some time. The person who was in charge of that process passed away, unfortunately, right before the pandemic. She took with her a lot of institutional knowledge, and we struggled to figure out how to differentiate what was spent on Bartlett and what was spent on other locations. The bottom line in our finance department shows materials. It's our collection development department's responsibility to delineate between what is exactly Bartlett's and what is for the rest of the system. There's a system to do that. There's a training curve. There was a training curve in there. The processes for ordering kind of fell apart. Everything slowed down. We ended up getting a lot of state grant money, which put a big workload on that department, and everything just kind of went haywire. So we are figuring it out. I have to go back, and we use a acquisition system called CERSI, and CERSI keeps track of what we are purchasing and allocates it to our specific funds. CERSI is only as good as what we enter into CERSI. I want to be sure that the numbers in CERSI are accurate. I want to go back. I want to look through invoices and be sure that everything is reflected correctly. It looks like, from what I can determine so far, that there was money carried over in some fiscal years, and I want to be sure that we just accurately capture everything that we owe you. And that's why it's so difficult, because our finance manager, who we would normally go to and say, hey, run us a report, she's not looking at the actual funds within acquisitions. Does that help?
Alderman King.
Ma'am, I do appreciate you coming, speaking to us. Your title, one more time, what's your position again?
My position currently is Assistant Director of Strategic Partnerships.
Okay. And I'm a little disappointed that the director is not here.
She is here.
She is here?
Mm-hmm.
I would really like to direct my questions to the director if she's here.
Ms. Keenan, if you just state your name and address for the record, just the format, please.
Sure. Keenan McCloy, 728 Charles Place, Memphis, Tennessee, 38112.
Thank you. Alderman Keenan.
Ma'am, I appreciate you coming. And I know this is a tough situation, but I have a little problem with the size of your organization. Y'all have 17 libraries, multi-million-dollar operation, and everything hinged on one person's death, or we cannot find these numbers. And it's very, we pay you approximately $1.3 million a year to manage that library, and then we give you additional money to buy books. I've been in other libraries that have been through the same downtime and all that we've been through on supply chain, and their shelves are full of books. They're on the floor. They can't fill the shelves with them. So it's a little troubling to me that we pay you that much money, and I don't know what your budget, the other ones don't pay you money, it's in your budget because they're all city. We're the only one outside that city library. So we pay you $1.3 million, and I know for a fact we've been trying to get this number for a long time. And I'm a businessman, numbers are a part of a business, and you're saying that as large as your operation is, one person determined on whether we can get this number. And what guarantee would we have that we would get this number in 30 days? And that's my concern. I hate the questions. I hate to put you on the spot like this, but I'm really, the other 17 libraries, I'm only concerned about this library, because that's the one that I represent the people for this library, and to pay you $1.3 million and then we're shortfall, I have a hard time with it. I do. So if you could address that, I would.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm as frustrated as a person could be as well. And I don't think all of this happened, truthfully, I don't think all of this happened because of one person, because that's now some time ago. So I think that the collect. What's that?
The problem started then. It wasn't just that one person.
But the book purchase, I've been to other libraries, and like I said, they can't get them all on the shelf. They're stacked up against the wall, or they had to move they were blocking where they were because they didn't have enough. And then I go to our library, and the shelf is empty. And so they buy from the same chain that you do. From my research of libraries, you should be purchasing books now 3 or 4 months in advance. In my circumstances, y'all are 3 or 4 months behind on purchasing the books, and a library should be purchasing books 3 or 4 months down the line so they are available to them. Am I correct?
I absolutely agree with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Griffin.
Well, if I can tag on the back of that, the fact that, as he mentioned, some of the other libraries have so much stock, it is odd that, because so many people have reached out to me and said, the Memphis Library is great about transferring books in when we need them. But that's just it. The Memphis libraries seem to have those books, whereas ours does not. So again, it seems like we're a second-rate library when it comes to the Memphis library system, in the fact that those libraries do have them to transfer from, whereas we're always short-handed. And that's what's puzzling to us, is that why is it that ours is always the one that's short-handed when the others have books to transfer in, and we're always the ones having to request them to be transferred, whether it's new releases or just regular stock that's on the shelves. That's where we're troubled, is the fact that are we second rate to you guys because our shelves are empty when it comes to some of those new ones, but the others have plenty of books to transfer over. So clearly they are being ordered for your libraries, but they're not being ordered for ours. And why is that?
I don't know that, it's not been my experience that the other libraries are getting as many books or more books than Bartlett. I don't really agree with that assessment, so I can't really address it.
I mean, anecdotally, that's what people are telling me, is that I can always get books transferred in.
Well, it's a 1.5 million collection, so there are a greater number of books out there. Are we talking about current material? In my experience, that's the way it has been. Is some of the best sellers, they're on those new releases as you walk in. And I've gone to other branches, Raleigh, Cordova, Cosset, and they have multiple copies of those. But then when I come to my library here in Bartlett, ours are always empty. So are the ordering system not being managed correctly, in that you guys can see what the trends are at our library and what the other libraries are, and you know which authors are more popular from branch to branch. It seems that you could adjust those orders to reflect that, as opposed to maybe just making a blanket order across the board where some authors won't be picked up as often, whereas they are here clearly, because we're clearly using them and picking them up, or we're borrowing those books, but those authors are always sold out here, yet they're on the shelves in the other libraries. And I do go to many other libraries, and I have found that to be the case. Sometimes it's a case of, and I'm guessing really, because I don't work in collection
and
development.
you also are new on the position too, so I understand. So I think that's why we asked the director to come up, because you are new to this position. So we don't mean to be taking it out on you, but that's why we were kind of looking for answers from you, Ms. McCloy, to just find out historically what has happened. Since she is new, what have you seen, and what is the reason why we aren't receiving the books that we're paying for?
I think the short version is, truly I did not have any idea, because we order so many books and we are getting in a lot of new titles. Some of the libraries you were just talking about do have nice collections, or we've had new collections because we built out the Cosset. We have a couple of other branches. We're focusing on Fraser. We do Raleigh. And we do deliver twice a day here. So whatever it is you want, and I understand it's being moved around. I mean, the collection is being moved around. But we do come, like I say, twice a day. We do have deliveries for anything that you put a hold on. We get it to you
I'm just concerned that the transfers wouldn't be necessary if we were receiving the books we were supposed to get in the first place.
Can I just...
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Okay.
I am not, absolutely not disagreeing.
But so is that part of the project that you guys are looking at with the new hire, with Ye working for us now, to be able to investigate this and to address that? Is that what's being, so that there is a focus on Bartlett now?
Absolutely.
I kind of just wanted to be able to hear that, you know.
As my experience with the Bartlett Library, which has been several years, Bartlett is a reading community. And even when we were getting all of the materials that we were paying for, sometimes our shelves were empty as compared to other libraries because our materials check out a lot. So I would be hesitant to just say the materials weren't there, weren't owned, as opposed to not being on the shelf. I would like to make that distinction.
Sure.
Because Bartlett reads.
Sure. And that's fair. I just want to make sure that we are receiving what we're supposed to be receiving and we're not being shortchanged as it comes across that way.
Alderman Williams, you recognized.
Hi. Thank you all for coming out to speak with us. So my question is, if the board votes in favor of keeping this partnership with Memphis City, Library, what performance metrics are going to be put in place? Because what I'm hearing is, again, like we've been stated by multiple aldermen, and what you said, it's going to take 30 days before you can get a number. So if we get the number in 30 days, then you have a time span where you're going to have to make that correction or fix what's going on. So it will be necessary to have those things put in place, the performance metrics. And again, once those things are put in place, I'm quite sure there'll be recommendations from us, things that we would like to see. And the question would be, would you be agreeable to that?
Definitely.
And then also, taking account the 30 days, how much time are you going to need to set up these performance metrics and get these, start getting books in and start getting what we need into our library?
I think the performance metrics will greatly depend on what you want to do with the money that we discover we haven't spent. Okay? And by that I mean, just hypothetically, let's say there's, $25,000 that we discover from last fiscal year that was not spent. I think we need to consider whether or not you want that $25,000 in materials now. If you want to go back and purchase that $25,000 in addition to the $95,000 you've already allocated for this year, or if you want us to handle that in some other way. So what I am telling you this evening is that I will get you a figure, an accurate figure in 30 days. Whether or not you agree to stay with us, we'll still do that. And we will still come back to you and say, this is what we found. Let's talk about where you want to go from here. Are there other things, other library services that you want to concentrate on to bring to the Bartlett community? Are there other improvements you want? Do you want to spend this all in materials? Because if you think about libraries and collections, books come out all the time. Do you want to go back and enhance what you already have, or do you just want to call that, okay, let's use that money for something else and start fresh here? So there's a lot to consider when we figure out what we owe you.
So, excuse me.
And we're happy to work with you. We need to renegotiate the contract if you decide to stay. The contract has not been renegotiated. It's a 2004 contract. It doesn't state what you expect from us, what we are going to promise you. It doesn't build in any kind of reporting. I've always done statistical. When I was with Bartlett, I always did statistical reports every year just for your information. That's not mandated anywhere. We want to hear from you. This is like a new beginning for us with our partnership for you. We want to hear from you what you want in that contract, and we want to build whatever metrics you want into your contract so that we know what you expect from us.
Okay.
Alderman Williams, and I'd just like to let the board know that as mayor, several months ago, back during the summer, I cease and desist that we stop the funding until we get it resolved. So going forward, we're not continuing to give them any more monies until we can find out where we can find where the balance is. So kind of keep in mind, however long that is tracked too, those books haven't been purchased. Okay. Not that we haven't given them the money to purchase it until we find out where we are. So just letting you guys know going forward during this interim time here, I cut the spending off on the books several months ago.
So I just have one more thing to add. With that being said, summer and now we're in January, and the thought of having to wait another 30 days to get this information, it's a little disturbing because that's a long period of time. 30 days is my estimate, and I gave myself a lot of time to work with the rest of the staff to get those numbers. I plan on getting them to you as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Alderman Young?
My concern, and I'll be perfectly honest, is my understanding the administration has been trying for months to deal with this issue with the library. Not only could they not get a meeting on 4 requests, they couldn't even get a return phone call. So we let you know that we're going to cancel the contract, and all of a sudden we got some interest. That's not the way you run a railroad. I don't think that's fair to the citizens of Bartlett at all. We're paying a lot of money. We don't even know how much money is outstanding. That now we can find out in 30 days. We couldn't get a phone call 4 or 5 months ago. I'm sorry, that's not the way you run a business. That's all I got.
Alderman Quinn.
Hey, thank you all for coming down, and appreciate your time that you've given. Appreciate Kia giving the tour of the library and let me know like what's going on. I mean, I have some experience with my kids mainly, and they're always looking for new books. But I think we all share the same concern. Obviously, you've heard about the money, and I understand. We're dealing with a secondary government here, and I can respect that. But it is very frustrating about the money. But I do see, from the conversations we've all had, I believe, that we can fix these problems. But I appreciate you also saying or acknowledging that the Bartlett Library, the reason there's not a lot of new books out is because they're being checked out a lot. I mean, the other shelves are full, and I believe it's the second busiest library in the system next to the main library, 110,000 or so items. So it's about the same size as the Germantown Library they were talking about. So, but like I've said publicly often, I was very disappointed to learn about the money and also just some things we need to make some tweaks there. And I appreciate y'all trying to be more responsive, and hopefully going forward, if we stick with the contract, that'll be something we can continue and get the reports and know what's going on. I appreciate what the contract says, but the spirit is always partnership, and that's what I would like to see is more partnership with the library. But there's a great affection in the community for the library and for the staff, and so I would just like to reiterate that we'd like to see a better partnership. This is a partnership. This is not just a contract, and so thank you.
Thank you. Is hearing no more questions for the board. Thank you. If at this time I'd like to invite the representatives from Avenue up to the microphone, please.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here. My name is Dana Braccia, and as an MLS degreed librarian and thought leader in libraries for more than 15 years, I want to express how appreciative we are to be with you this evening talking about this vital resource of your library. When Avenue saw the RFQ, we understood Bartlett was looking for better for their citizens, a city looking for more. As your partner, Avenue would be directly accountable to local leaders, community groups, and your citizens. What you'll gain with Avenue is a more robust and timely collection of relevant and high-demand materials selected by local librarians. You'll also gain a more Bartlett-centric approach to programming and community outreach, more collaborations with the Friends organization, local schools, and other community groups, more involvement from the library patrons in areas such as the Citizen Library Advisory Board, ongoing feedback and suggestion channels, and most importantly, more accountability for the value of your taxpayer dollars. We know Memphis is a large system and needs to spread their efforts amongst many stakeholders. We also know they do their very best under the circumstances, but it's also important for Bartlett leaders to ensure their resources are meeting the needs of your Bartlett stakeholders. As most large cities, Memphis has layers of bureaucracy that can slow things down, and when issues arise, it can take sometimes a lengthy amount of time to fix those issues. By comparison, we wanted to share tonight that Avenue is just inherently a nimble organization. We can quickly align our service priorities to the most meaningful areas that your citizens need. We love working with cities that want their hands on the wheel and want to offer more and better to their citizens. We worked with your neighboring community of Germantown when they needed a more innovative approach, and we've had outstanding results. We want to help ensure the city of Bartlett is library proud. During our time here this evening, we did share information at the December work session and have had a chance to do some community outreach and have questions, and so we'll go ahead and cover those just real briefly here, some of the areas that come up. On the first one, and I have counterpart here, is library staffing. And again, we know that's the most important resource. We're very excited by the team we have in Germantown. And some of the questions was, does Avenue have MLS degree librarians? Absolutely. In fact, in Germantown, we have 4 MLS degree librarians in the areas of adult services, collection development, our library director, as well as at the genealogy library. In addition, we're asked if we do participate in ongoing training, professional involvement such as American Library Association, Tennessee Library Association. The answer again is absolutely. We are very involved in the library industry and community. We're also competitive with our salaries and our benefits, and we were able to see the Memphis salary levels, so feel very confident in the packages that we would put together for the Bartlett library employees. Next up is collections. This, of course, has been the big topic of the evening. We believe in having dynamic and relevant collections, again, with local librarians doing the selection, doing the managing. In Germantown, we actually are in programs where we lease extra copies of those popular bestsellers to ensure we can meet the demand when the demand is there, when the book first comes out. When that demand wanes, we're able to send back those books for credit. So we have a really good program in place. In fact, we have our collection development librarian here this evening. And to the point about ordering in advance, that's where that ordering is happening now, months before publication date, to ensure when library street date is our date. We also have a patron suggestion program, so if somebody doesn't see what they'd like, they can absolutely put that request in. We can participate in what's called ILL, or interlibrary loans, so if there's like more esoteric or historical resources, we can capture those. We also are responsive. The schools in Germantown wanted the JSTOR online database. That's for academic research, student papers. That's something the school district didn't offer, but we now at the Germantown Library offer that resource. So we're able to be, again, flexible for what the community is asking for. And then over here we've got just a couple statistics. When we look at what's called collection turnover, is that how often are the books that you do have actually checking out? And so the numbers that you see, actually, excuse me first for going to the digital collection. That was another question come up. Will we still have Libby and ebooks? Absolutely. In fact, we participate through City of Germantown in what's called Tennessee Reads. That's a statewide collection. Right now, Memphis does not participate. They just purchase the books themselves. And so what that allows us to do is not only have around 275,000 books that are in Tennessee Reads, we also purchase additional ebooks for Germantown Library cardholders. So if we see a hold list getting too long, we can have copies that are only going to be for those cardholders. And again, you can kind of see the numbers with Collierville. They also participate in Tennessee Reads. Now looking again at the physical collection, that's where I was going with the turnover. And again, you want vibrancy. You want a book to earn its place on the shelf. In Germantown right now, we have a turnover of about 2.15, which means about on average items go out twice, and Collierville is 3.85. And mind you, we've only been in Germantown a couple of years, so we're definitely progressing as we fine-tune that collection. By comparison, the Memphis overall has a collection turnover of 0.72, and Bartlett, if you pull out those numbers, is at 0.97. So basically, Collierville circulates 3 to 4 times more than Bartlett collection right now, and Germantown is over twice as much. So that means, again, having relevant books on the shelf that people want to circulate. So we kind of also gave you an overview of how Bartlett compares at a national level, state level. And again, it goes back to having the right books on the shelf. We did have questions again about programming, and we are very local centric. Again, what's needed in the community for education, outreach, and you can see just a comparison of the numbers that were shared at the last meeting by the city of Memphis for Bartlett compared to Germantown. And again, having right programming that hits the mark, that also increases people who want to get a library card, people who want to show up to attend different activities. Also, our strength is in library technology, not only for citizens, but also the interface that when you're checking out a book or looking for books in the catalog, so very robust there. Another question that came up was regarding, would the city still be available for state aid funds or different grants? And the answer is absolutely. Those are funds that go to the city. Avenue can provide support in terms of grant writing, finding grant opportunities, but at the end of the day, the application goes out on behalf of the city, and the city then accepts those funds. And so in the case of Germantown, we had a $25,000 state aid grant, and we're able to go out and do collection development and bring in those books and materials with those funds. So that's just a very normal operating procedure. And also, again, partnering with the Friends of the Library. We were able to host the Friends group at the Germantown to take a tour, to meet with the Friends organization there. And again, all of those activities and those funds, those go directly to the library benefit. So it's a really vibrant and robust program. Definitely work with our partners on accountability, reporting out, ensuring like those statistics, and there's usually standard ones that report up to the state level, as well as specific ones based on your community goals, strategic plan, and building that in that regular reporting. I mentioned a little bit earlier, typically you would have a library advisory board, so there's that extra layer of citizen input and discussion and dialogue. And again, you're ensuring that your resources are being spent well and how those are being used. And we shared quite a bit about our organization, I know, at the last meeting as well, but included that.
So we open the floor for questions. Alderman Reeves.
Yeah. So 3 questions. First question. If we went with Avenue, what services are we going to lose that the MPL provides?
I think in reviewing what you currently have, it's more about what you would gain. So something, let's say we talk about if Memphis, I know, does have a large collection, but when you saw the turnover, out of 1 million books, about 500,000 didn't circulate. Of those are probably a certain percentage of reference or historical that wouldn't, but still, that's about 1/3 of the collection that's just there, not gathering dust, but, hasn't been checked out. What you would gain with us is initially a complete collection review, I'll say head to toe. Do you have what you need? And we talk about, it's almost like an opening day collection where you've got all of your series, the Harry Potters, the this, the that, your John Grishams. Do you have everything in place? And then on top of that, we would start to layer in, again, the new purchases, and get you on an ordering plan. So people are going to feel they have a vibrant experience when they come into the library. So we have had the opportunity again to do quite a few tours of the library, again with my collection development librarian, and just see firsthand where there's gaps, where we can make a difference. The other part, again, is really looking at your programs, services, just doing a whole user experience audit. What does it feel like to get a library card? We've done a little bit of mystery shopping as well to see what does that feel like right now. Are you excited when you get it? Are you introduced to resources? What does that communication happen in a marketing sense afterwards? So there's just, again, a lot of those aspects on my first slide. I call them the food groups of library services. It's just really, again, that assessment and the immediate action. So this is something we did with Germantown, and it's, again, a very exciting place to be. When you go in there, you see people, you see programming, you see materials, and just a good educational and lifelong learning atmosphere.
What are you guys going to do different?
I would say more responsive to Bartlett needs, because we're not worried about so many other locations, so many other places. It is front and center, meaning a top priority, ensuring, again, the books, the programs, the services, even things as simple as hours. Are those really being utilized? Are they the right fit? So working with the city leadership, it could be where there may be extended hours on Saturday that are needed. So the city would have flexibility to be able to really understand what's happening in their library. Again, we have the ability to make pivots, adjustments, to make sure we're meeting the needs of citizens. And even something as simple, we talked about right now, about 25% of your residents are active card holders, meaning I know there's quite a few still in the database, but when asked have they actually used their card in the last 6 months or 12 months, that number came way down. And you've made this investment in your resource. I think you mentioned over like 1.3 million and above. Are citizens getting that value? And so I think what's different is we connect citizens to that value.
What would you be willing to commit to on the service level, from a service level viewpoint, from a responsiveness to the city? Would you be willing to put that in the agreement as to how quickly, when we make a request from you, how quickly you will respond?
Correct.
Would you be willing to put that into the agreement as part of an SLA in the contract?
Oh, absolutely. And I think another part of that, though, too, is we can also talk about what is an acceptable hold time. So say, for example, if you have 5 copies of a book, it might mean a citizen is going to wait 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. So what we do is we look at that bucket of resource and we say, okay, you could put all of your money into bestsellers, but then you're not necessarily going to have the funds for the long tail. So generally, again, in Germantown, at the beginning of the year, we are budgeting based on usage. How much of those funds will go towards the children's collection? How much to teen? How much to adult? How much to this or that? And alter those funds. That said, again, getting a book in quickly, we actually order what we call shelf ready. So when our books arrive from our vendor, they are cataloged, they are labeled, they've got a barcode. My understanding, I think in Memphis, is that they come in, they might go to a workspace to get stickered and labeled and those things, and that can delay it. So for us, we want to pre-order in advance. We are familiar with the quantities of typical authors, like a Grisham. How many do we generally need? We like to order early so we can monitor the hold list as well. So maybe we've already ordered something that's going to be published in April. If all of a sudden 200 people, let's call it Lessons in Chemistry, that's a book that's been out there, all of a sudden there's a show on Paramount Plus, those holds go up, so we can start to monitor that. So again, for us, ordering in advance, getting those copies in quickly, and then setting service thresholds to say if we don't want people waiting X amount of time, and adjusting our budget accordingly. And again, sometimes the reality is, I know right now you have a very healthy collection budget. I think it's over $100,000 that's allocated. That's a fabulous amount for this community. So if that were being spent, again, based on what we're doing in Germantown, not difficulty in meeting the needs of the materials that people are looking for.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Williams.
So, just looking over the materials you provided us, I'm looking at seamless transition.
Yes.
So, and we all know that a transition is never, the word, we like to say seamless, but it's not seamless. So I just wanted to know, regarding the Germantown Library, how long did it take you all to get everything set up? Because again, we do have a lot of readers in our community, and we don't want to have that gap, and it disturbs that. So walk us through that.
Gotcha, sure. Say, for example, the city were to select Avenue this evening, and my understanding is if there's a 6-month notice potentially with Memphis, or it could be shortened or what have you, we actually go into action immediately. We do quite a bit of I'll say, onboarding of customers in our managed services. And so, again, we go back to the big areas. One is staff is wanting to have those conversations with the current staff to let them know about Avenue, our roles, our benefits, the positions, all those types of things. Because again, we want them to be able to make an informed decision of where they want their career to go next. What we found in Germantown is, again, we brought on the majority of the team there. We had some specific scenarios where I think I mentioned last time with a health issue. But what we found there too was there were so many great ideas of the staff and things that maybe they hadn't necessarily been encouraged to implement before. And so we have some of those really good dialogues and go in, walk them through the plan. So the day one of the contract, we've already got, their employment taken care of, onboarding. And so that could, let's say it was a July 1 start, that work can begin immediately because it is stressful for an individual of what will my job look like, what am I going to be doing. So we would like to take care of that. And then again, very high touch, lots of good conversation. We have an HR team that really specializes in this. Next is technology. They mentioned the Cersei Dynex system. In fact, we've already been in conversation with Cersei, and so in this case, that would be a rather easy transition because you're basically going to be extracting your data, so your patron card holder information, your collection holdings. As she mentioned, though, it's key because what goes into Cersei, it needs to be quality information. So, for example, in Germantown, we have funds for every account. I mentioned adult books, teen books, children's books. So we load those funds as we spend and acquire materials. We can have a full reporting immediately. And so what we would do with the Cersei Dynex is, again, transfer over the database. We've already talked through the technology side with them. We've also been in conversation with the city's IT. It's a very similar, for example, the way we work with the city of Germantown IT, ensuring for imaging, on a public access computer. So if you're a citizen, you want to go in and use a computer, we have that all set up. You'll be able to do your printing, your catalog, that type of thing. So for us, that part's, I'll say, a little bit easier, and we can have that work done prior to the start. In terms of materials, that's, again, advanced work we can do is go in and start to do a full audit of the collection that's in there. We already have a fabulous materials vendor that we work with the City of Germantown, and go through and do a whole profile. So, for example, even before July 1, if that were the start date, we would have all your shopping carts full, ready to go, so as soon as it's go live, they can turn on the faucet, get those materials in. And so again, it's a lot of that setup work that we went through with Germantown, and it's just sort of a methodical, I know in one of the decks we presented earlier, a little bit of a Gantt chart of how we do that transition. But it's something, again, very comfortable with, and just, again, we can compress it if it happened to be before a July 1 start date, or if it was a July 1, we've already got that all mapped out of how we do that.
Alderman King.
I just want to clarify a couple of statements. So if a top seller's coming out and you're expecting a big rush on that, sometimes you will buy some and then lease some so that when that trend falls down, we're not holding 200 or 300 copies of that book. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. So we actually, at the start of the year, it's a whole lease program. And so, for example, they typically have all the major authors that could potentially be publishing. And so we already set parameters. If it's a Grisham, we want X. If it's a this, we want, this quantity. And so the nice thing is it's almost like a set it and forget it. So we don't even have to have intervention to make sure that the train's going to run on time. And so in that case, perhaps we are going to get 15 copies of a bestseller. And we do a couple of things. Is not only can somebody place a hold on it, we also want to have what's called a most wanted. So when you walk into the library, maybe you don't like to go online and place holds. You actually are going to be seeing a copy that's available there. And generally on those, we have a shorter circulation period. So instead of 2 weeks to read it, it's only a week. And it's not renewable because we want people coming into the building to see those materials. If all of your copies go to just fulfilling holds, nobody will ever see a bestseller when they walk in the door. And so it's setting up, things like that. And to your point then, once that demand starts to fall down, we're able to send back copies. And so with the lease program, they give you so many credits back, and then we say, this one we'd like to keep 4 copies. Or on this one, we actually want to put together a classroom set or a book discussion set. We actually have kits that community members can check out, and those would have, let's say, 12 or 15 copies. And so we know, like a Lessons in Chemistry, there's a lot of, it's not only a great fiction show, but a lot of good discussion questions. So then we'll also put together a discussion kit and things like that. So we have flexibility there, but it really goes to, you want books when the demand is there. So even now, if you were to spend, as they mentioned, $25,000 to go back and buy books where the demand's already gone, it's always with libraries. Some you have your core collection, and then always that future looking of what you want to be purchasing.
And last question. So you're going to we could share books with Germantown and Collier, correct?
Well, what you need to do is set up a sort of an IGA agreement. So right now, Germantown and Collierville have that. My understanding is Steve has reached out to those cities, and they're open to that potential partnership. So
okay, so I go in and I want a book, and we don't have it. Germantown doesn't have it. Collier doesn't have it. There is a request purchase
Suggest
program.
a purchase.
So I'd say, okay, nobody has this, so what will you do? And someone would fill out a request, and y'all would purchase that book so that they would have, or is it only certain books, or is that pretty well open in?
Well, it's a couple of things. Generally, if it's, I'll say more, something that we think it's not a textbook. Or if you were to request a textbook that is very esoteric, we would make the decision, is that the best funds where a lot of people could use this resource? Or is it a better scenario to do an ILL, an interlibrary loan, to get a more, like we call it, the long tail items in? If it's a mainstream, like something that's, we think, yeah, we're missing that, it's a gap in our collection, let's purchase that immediately and get that. I mean, our goal is, it's expensive in a way to courier around books. We do that, but what we want to be is even more responsive. If this is an item that the City of Bartlett citizens want in their library, can we get it quickly, have it on the shelf? So, because again, the less, and all the libraries probably feel that way, is the more we can have stuff in the building when you go in, what you want, when you want it, that's a better scenario. But on the case, again, if it might be a Collierville history book, or it might be something that's more appropriate in a different collection. So we assess that.
And last question, excuse me, during the supply chain issue, were y'all hit by that? Were you able to still purchase your books? Did you stay on target during that time when getting supplies was difficult?
That was actually, we were not with Germantown during the COVID, is that between 2018, 2019? But in terms of working with our current provider, that's something that we set up to ensure, again, we already have our ordering plans, we have our shopping carts, we have those materials, so.
Thank you.
Ma'am, Alderman Quinn, I fixed to recognize you. One of the slides you had a minute ago was the collection of the Tennessee Reads.
Correct.
And would that be one of those other avenues that you could pull if we didn't have?
That's actually an electronic ebook collection, and so jurisdictions have the choice to participate or not. And so what happens is you would pay, from our collection budget, and this is again in Germantown, we allocate a certain amount. So based on your population, the state will say, if you guys would like to participate in the consortium, this is your amount to do that. And so the nice thing there is we can share 275,000 resources, and on top of that, if you're a Libby user and you log in with your, let's say we were working with you on Bartlett and you logged in with your Bartlett card, you're going to see not only the Tennessee Reads collection, you're also going to see, I'll call them Bartlett only copies. And so we actually have our librarians looking at the hold list, with that provider Overdrive to say, gosh, there's a whole bunch of holds on this, and a lot of those holds are our citizens, and so we want to get extra, in this case, Germantown copies to meet that need. And so, again, I think my understanding is Memphis, doesn't participate right now in the statewide consortium. And Germantown does, and Collierville does. So you will immediately have access to a lot more electronic resources and ebooks. And again, we know after COVID, that has been the trend. For a while, ebooks were like a hockey stick. They went up in popularity and were flat. Then with the pandemic, off the charts. So many more people now are reading them on their iPad, their Kindle. We've really seen that shift. We still absolutely need the physical, but I think having a large ebook collection is huge. And again, that's also where some of those more esoteric titles or things like that might make more sense, because you only have limited amount of shelf. I mean, right now you have a lot of empty shelves, but if you are ordering regularly and getting materials in, we really say we want that book to earn its place on the shelf. And so sometimes there's things that's like, you know what, that makes more sense as an e-copy.
Alderman Quinn.
Thank you, and thank you for the tour you gave me.
Sure.
The facility was really nice. It's a beautiful. Well, I mean, y'all didn't build it obviously, but Germantown did a great job thinking ahead on the size of their library and how it looked. Just real quick, I believe the question that was asked earlier was how long it would take to get a book if it wasn't available, and I get what particular books, you'll judge the basis on whether you can use the book or not, but. And I believe somebody told me that at the Germantown Library, what was it, a week or so you hoped?
It would just depend. Again, we have sort of a process for ordering. So say, for example, the collection development librarians are looking at it on a weekly basis. So if requests come in, they go through, they place the order. That said, if there is a delay maybe on the book supplier end, a lot of times now they're able to do what I call print on demand. So they own the rights to the books, but imagine, they have just warehouses that are limited in space, so they may not have that particular title that they would then do like a print on demand and ship and what have you. So it would come into the regular workflow. As I mentioned too, we would have it cataloged and processed. So depending on if it was quite an older one that had to be print on demand, and worst case, I mean, honestly, we could always order on Amazon. That's not the most ideal because we could process in-house as well. But if we said, you know what, especially I know we've looked at your history collection, and we do this a lot with the genealogy library. There's a lot of very specialized material that makes sense for a citizen. So we have that flexibility, if you will. We're not like a big lumbering giant where we can't pivot quickly. The other thing we added in Germantown is what's called the local author collection. And so in this case, we actually do original cataloging. We're not purchasing the copies of the books, necessarily using resources, but if you're a citizen and you've written that, and we had a great example, I think I'd sent one of the folks a news article, and it was a local author, and it was just neat to see. It's like her work in there. And so we do have some family histories, things like that. And so to be able to check out a book, you have to be able to discover it in the catalog, be able to have it in the system. And again, we have that flexibility where we do have librarians that can do that original cataloging, put that out there. If it were a scenario where there was a lot of holds on that, at that point we would purchase additional copies. But for the most part right now, it's ensuring that if we have community voices, we have a place to be able and flexibility to do that, to make it a very local collection.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have a few more questions. I'm sorry for the department heads in the back. Ask more questions, make y'all stand longer. So, like I say, when I was out there, and I believe one of the gentlemen said if he had to, he'd have to try to figure out how to courier it from Germantown or Collierville if we had intergovernmental agreement or something like that, and he wasn't sure how long that would take. So it's the possibility of that. So I don't want to belabor that point, but. Now, how many locations does Avenue manage, library locations?
Well, in terms of doing actually soup to nuts, I would say it's our Germantown and the Germantown Genealogy Library there. In our other managed services locations, we're doing a lot of that library technology and IT. So as I mentioned last time, like the New Orleans Sewer and Water Board, we have a team of about 30 FTEs on site there, again, doing everything. So imagine there, the work is a little bit different. It's more oftentimes, too, if we're dealing with hurricanes or crisis or keeping that IT function running. Again, I think in terms of this, my past personal experience, having worked in a lot of managed services as well for libraries, as well as our CEO, has been the CEO of an organization that also has done outsourced library managed services.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're talking about LSI. Mm-hmm. Okay, because they didn't even put a bid They didn't get to put a bid in on this. And aren't they the largest in the nation, possibly?
I'm not sure of their
Pretty good
current
size, though, right?
size,
Been doing
but
it for 80 years. Okay.
yeah,
So
I don't
basically,
believe
y'all,
that
you
they responded.
manage one library.
Well, 2 locations in Germantown. Correct.
Genealogy is in the same building.
No, it's a separate standalone.
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. It's
Yeah.
the one off of Poplar Pike or something.
Correct.
Right? Okay,
Yeah,
so I've
no,
been in
and
there.
again, this is an area of growth and focus for us, which is, I think, why I'll say we almost try harder ensuring we have the white glove treatment and the services that we deliver there. And so, again, that's really why we encourage everybody to come out, take a tour, see firsthand the kind of vibrancy that is happening in Germantown, the kind of innovation, the collection, the programming. We're very proud of our staff there and the work that they do.
And I appreciate that, but I just want to reiterate, Given Avenue is very impressive with analytical systems and stuff like that. You manage one library in the United States.
Two locations.
Okay, genealogy lab,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay. And that being said, do you think that Bartlett, with its own professional, could run its own library?
It's definitely, I would say, a trend that we're seeing of jurisdictions wanting to bring in professional services to help with this, because things do change, technology changes. It brings in a slew of additional vendors, for example, your Cersei Dynex vendor, your materials vendor, your database vendor. There's a lot of moving parts to that. So it's like anything else. I mean, if you were to say, do we want to put our time and attention and focus on this? Do we want to be able to focus on other activities and resources? And again, have organizations that's what they do as a primary, you know what I mean? It's top focus.
Right. I'm just asking if somebody else was an MLS, MBA, could come in and run the library.
Again, I know we have a lot of wonderful librarians, not only here in the community, of course, throughout the United States. I think a little bit different with Avenue is we bring the MLS. I actually have an MLS and an MBA. And so part of that is to look at things of that return on investment. So could anybody run a library? I'm sure, absolutely, but it's kind of looks at everything, the slew of services we've been talking about. You know, can they ensure the materials? I mean, right now you have professional librarians, I believe, running. I don't know if the director has an MLS or not, but I know there's professional librarians at Memphis, and even with that kind of background, you're experiencing the issues you're experiencing now. You know, and they did sort of talk about, is it looking at the return on investment to right now not know what books have been ordered for Bartlett, how many years potentially have they not been necessarily spending at a pace or ensuring meeting demand. It's looking at, I'll say, evidence-based collection development, looking at your statistics, looking at your number. Again, I'm not sure the last time even hours were reviewed to say, are we meeting the demands of what citizens are wanting right now? So, I think a lot of people could absolutely run a library, but what Avenue brings is very special in that our depth of experience in a lot of areas. One of the things we've talked to the city about too is we also do digitization. So that's working a lot with those historic documents, archives. It's really down to information management.
Yes. Yeah, that's very true. I just wanted to see what the real experience was, and I believe you used to work for LSI, didn't you?
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Alderman Griffin.
Just to clarify, when you mentioned the interlibrary loans, is that coming from any other libraries besides the 2 that you mentioned, the 2 locations that you guys have partnerships with?
Correct. There's 2 different programs. One is sort of a local IGA, for example, the courier. And so if you were to participate in that, we have a third-party courier. That's all they do is just deliver items. And so that would happen.
Sorry, excuse me for interrupting. How often do they deliver, though? Because we know Memphis does a great job, to their credit, they do a great job of transferring in daily.
Correct.
But yet, how often would you deliver, whether it is from Germantown and Collierville or with this interlibrary loan, what other locations are those coming from and how quickly could those come in?
I want to say, is it twice weekly, the courier delivery? And that's a schedule that's flexible, meaning if they're, again, ideally, we don't want the demand to be there because we'd like to have materials there. But if the demand goes up and we say we need courier service 3 times a week, we need courier 5 times a week. I think based on right now, both Germantown and Collierville, do a really good job of responding to patron requests to get the materials. And so again, we don't have quite as much traffic because we're able to get the materials that people want. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, my name is George Gretzes. I'm a vice president over at Avenue. You had mentioned what is the big difference. The big difference is you're in charge. So the paradigm shift here is going to be is how many times do the couriers deliver? As many times as you want within your existing budget. So like every other city service that you have here, you'll be part of that process. And you'll set the levels of service based on your budgets. And so what you're going to see that's different, and as you talk about transition, the biggest difficulty for you, I think, is going to be understanding that you're in charge and that you have a whole bunch of people in this city that are going to want to get excited about libraries and rush up to the counter and have some say on what you want to do with this facility. And so that's the exciting part. Maybe a little rough a little bit at the beginning because people are going to want things and you're going to have to manage expectations. But in terms of what kind of services that you want here, it's in your hands. We'll provide the expertise. We know how to do this. We have a whole team. Our CEO right now couldn't be here. He wanted to be here, but he's over in the West Coast right now closing a deal. But I will tell you this. He is so excited about libraries. That is one of his life missions is libraries. And so we will not fail. And so the idea that you don't get a phone call returned, that's not even in our DNA. The phone calls will get returned. The service, we want you to be happy, and we're going to work with you any way we possibly can to make sure that this is a success story and that your numbers are the best numbers up there. Circulation, attendance, community participation, programming, all of that. I think when you say what's going to be different, personally, I think everything is going to be different in a positive way, and you're going to feel some anxiety from the community because change sometimes brings community. But 6 months from now, I think you're going to find the people who have anxiety may end up being the most excited about what you've done here.
Thank you. Alderman Quinn.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify something that you said. So out of our budget we give you, we need to pay for the courier service?
No, right now we have that allocated in. And again, for us, it's more about shifting resources where we have got, again, what are the priorities? So to George's point, is how operationally we can achieve that. So okay. It's a fixed.
I'm sorry, shifting resources budget. Seems like you cut off Netflix so you can get Disney Plus. So are we being charged a courier service or not? You said depending on our.
I think you're going to make an assessment. You're going to make an assessment on what kind of service levels you want. So this is not a one-year deal, right? So you're going to end up going through each year and figuring out where you're going to want to tweak your resources.
So the answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
Yes, we do pay for it. It's allocating resources. It's probably, I don't know if MPL charges us for the daily deliveries. So we're going to pay a courier to bring, if Alderman King needs the latest Grisham novel or something, we're going to pay somebody $20 to drive it over from Germantown.
No, but again, we have what's called an operating budget where we take into account different service functions. So, for example, now within Germantown, we build that into our service model with the assumption that there's going to be some kind of courier service.
So we do pay for it.
Well, I mean, you're paying right now. You pay the Memphis $1.3 million.
So instead of buying a book, we just pay somebody to drive it from Germantown here. Okay, sorry, I wasn't trying to be rude.
Well,
I just wanted yes or no. I'm not trying to Perry Mason, y'all. I just wanted a yes or no. That's all.
Correct me right now.
That's fine. I understand, but I don't think Memphis charges every time they have to run a book over here. So okay.
Well, it's probably included in the $1.3 million operating that you pay for them. They have included that in their service package.
Okay. Well, I will say, I guess we've saved money on that because they've been bringing all the new books for Alderman Griffin over. So,
yeah. Alderman Reeves.
Thank you.
I'll say this. One of the things that intrigues me is local control. And when we went out, and I'm just going to be frank, when we went through the process of creating municipal school districts, it was about local control. It's about being in control of our own destiny when it comes to our own services. This is a similar situation. You give us the flexibility to have local control of our library without it being in a monstrosity of a library system, which is obviously dysfunctional right now in its leadership. And so That to me is one of the key things that I like about what you guys bring to the table. It is not your normal core business, but you are taking it on and you are innovating within the space, and you're going to give us a cutting edge innovation. Now, so when I look at this, local control is important to me. Right now, we're having issues getting response back. We can't get data. It is ridiculous. But it was the same way when we were with the Shelby County school system, Memphis City school system. It's reflective of Memphis leadership. So my perspective is that this is a great opportunity to have local control over our library and be able to get answers in the specific type of program that we want with inside the library. Everything may not be perfect, and we get that. But what we're looking for is people who are for Bartlett and about Bartlett, and that's the reason why I think that it makes sense what we're talking about tonight. Wasn't necessarily on board with this at the beginning, but as we've gone through the iterations and I've heard what we're getting and then what we could get, those are two different things. I think they're very stark realities. But when I'm hearing local control versus the control of a monster system, which we have a decision whether or not we want to be a part of anymore. That's the way that I look at it. Thank you.
Any more questions from the board? Seeing none from the board, thank y'all. Okay, we move to the public hearing portion, and those wishing to speak in favor, please come to the podium at this time and state your name and address for the record, please. The managed services. I'm sorry. If you're in favor of one of the other, come to the microphone and state what you're in favor of, staying with the Memphis Library or going to Avenue. So just state, I'll tell you what, I'll make it clear, any of those that's wishing to come forward in favor of staying with the Memphis Library system at this time, come to the microphone. If you're in favor of the city of Bartlett continuing the contract with the Memphis Public Library System, come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Mike Sisson. My address is 3882 Haynes Road.
Excuse me, just one second. Those wishing to speak, just kind of form a line so they go a little bit quicker right behind him. Thank you, sir. Continue.
I'm speaking in opposition. The long tail is the point. Regarding the collection, the Memphis Library has approximately 1.5 million physical items in their catalog. The aggregated Bartlett, Germantown, and Collierville libraries would hold approximately 320,000 items. This is a reduction of 79% of the long tail. To put that in perspective, if my personal home library, which encases 25 full bookcases, were the entire collection and you were to move with Avenue, that collection would shrink to 5 1/4 bookshelves. That's the real world what you're looking at losing. The benefits of MPL are not just the size of the collection, but also its depth and breadth. It's not just the 1.5, it's that it covers so many different topics. So that something that may have just one shelf at the Bartlett Library throughout the entire district may have 5 or 10 or 20 shelves of materials that someone can draw on. The long tail is the point. That's the reason for the library. I'm sorry. Reducing access pushes the focus of the materials to the most current and popular titles. The 320,000 books of the Germantown, Collierville, Bartlett aggregated libraries would suffer from repeated duplications in constituent library stocks. Recent books for their individual constituents. Easy access to the deep stacks of Benjamin Hooks goes away. Secondly, regarding services, currently MPL runs couriers so that we're able to get things within 1 to 2 days. There's been a lot of discussion as to how long is it going to take. What this does is, if we have to go and start filling out ILL for every form, that's pushing getting materials that I can get at a click of a button, just saying this book that's at Benjamin Hooks or at Cosset, I want it directed to Bartlett and I'll have it in 2 days. It may be days, weeks, or months before I'm actually able to get it. or for Avenue to decide, oh, well, we're going to go and get one copy as an ebook. Thirdly, it's been said, well, just get an MPL card. I've seen that a lot on Facebook. If you want access to the Memphis Library, spend the $50. One, I already have a Memphis Library card. Why should I suddenly have to start paying for something that I've had for the last 20 years? Secondly, the nearest access for MPL would move out to either the Pop White Station or to Cordova. Those are the nearest libraries to Bartlett to be able to continue to have what your constituents have right now. Finally, the library is an essential public information service. My preference with respect to Avenue is that a service focused on books and information be managed and run by local book people and not an out-of-state private equity company focused ultimately on the bottom line.
Thank you, sir.
Hey there. My name is Dave Bensman, 7004 Cane Hill Lane. And my concern is that whenever I see a corporation getting involved in anything, it's almost always that they seek a profit. And I don't see how they're going to make a profit in a non-profit situation like a library. That profit's going to have to come from somewhere. So is it going to come from the people who are patrons of the library? I mean, I don't really feel comfortable having my lending history in the hands of a corporation. Is the profit going to come from a reduction in services? Where is that? How are they making money? Because they're intending to make money. The other thing is, I'm concerned that the people who work at the library, the knowledgeable people with years of experience, and we're not just talking about the people at the top who have MLS degrees, but all the rank and file people that work at the library, they're going to have to re-interview for their jobs, definitely at a reduction of pay. And we're in a situation right now where you've got inflation and the cost of living is getting out of hand. And when I walk into a library, I don't want it to be like when I'm walking into some of these stores where the people don't know what they're talking about and they don't care and they don't have the time of day for you. I want to talk to a librarian who's invested and interested and has knowledge and can help me out. And the other thing is, as the guy before said, $50? I mean, I got a Memphis Library card. Why am I paying an extra $50 on top of my Bartlett City property tax? The Memphis Library deal is invaluable. Yes, there's money that needs to be accounted for, and that can be accounted for, but we don't need to blow up this deal. There's nothing like the main library at Memphis. There's nothing like it, and it's invaluable, and we need those services. We need to keep our library and not have a bookstore. We need a public library. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Lynn Chambers, 3596 Galen Drive. As a library patron, a member of the Friends of the Bartlett Library, and a former elementary school librarian, I have serious reservations when we turn over a community service to a for-profit company. This is a service that we pay for with our tax dollars. It's not supposed to make a profit. It's supposed to run better than it's running right now, obviously. But we need to make this partnership work. It's worked for a lot of years. It's not working correctly right now. We need to make sure that it works. We need to put demands in. And just as a ending comment, we are library proud.
Thank you.
Well, Teresa House, Hatfield, 6476 Gilead Circle South. I am opposed to privatization of the library. I do not want to see loss of the Memphis public library system. I've only lived in Bartlett close to 6 years. I find it a wonderful opportunity to have access to what the Memphis public library system offers. I am involved in the Friends of the Public Library. I'm concerned about the library employees losing their jobs and having to apply interview. I went to the Avenue presentation for the Friends that they did in Germantown. I was not impressed. I was not impressed today. It's a lot of double talk and fast sell. It's a business. And I am not somebody who is only interested in the latest book that's being published. But the history and the access that we have is immense through the Memphis Public Library system. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I'd also like to say, why do you have to change when you only have one other company who's offered or competing for this? Why not search further? If you want to change and you need to change, you can always do that the next year if you don't make your 6 months deadline this time. But you're only looking at one private company for I mean, how well they have only done one library, full management in the United States. Why leave what has worked for many, many years well and go to a company that has a very limited record? And, I understand you only got one bid, but do you take it out of desperation? Is it that bad?
Ma'am, for point of clarification, it was put out for public bid, and that's the only reply we got back.
Doesn't mean yet.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Wow, being last means yes, everything they said.
Somebody stepped up behind you, so you're not last.
Okay. Great, okay, yeah, plus what she's going to say. I'm Eileen Prout, 5159 Creek Cove, Bartlett. I'm in a book club with 18 other people, and we can get copies of the books because we belong to a group of libraries, and we can get them in a timely manner because each library has copies. So if you go with just Bartlett and maybe once a week, twice a week, you can get a copy from Germantown, we'll have to quit our book club. And I know a lot of book clubs that are going to be mad about that. She did say that there will be electronic books, things you can use, but these people are old and don't own them. They're going to have to go out and buy that, or they're going to have to spend the $50. I would spend the $50. I would be mad about having to spend the $50, but I would really, really hope that you stay with Memphis, please. And I didn't get here in time to hand this in.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. I'm Beth Smith of 8445 Wolf Pine Lane. I'm a proud citizen of Bartlett. I've lived here for about 8 years, and I value Bartlett for two reasons. One, I value Bartlett for what it offers as a smaller and standalone community. And Alderman Reeves, you mentioned our public schools, which are one of the most valuable assets we have in our community. The other reason I value living in Bartlett is the selection to have the access and the high quality and some of those things, but also the access to the larger Memphis community. For example, if we think about the Memphis Zoo or the Orpheum, I'm a mother of 3 children. I'm able to offer my children a wide breadth of experience by their living in Bartlett and yet having access to the larger Memphis community for some of those services and those things that I truly value for them. And what we would lose for my family is the ability to access those other locations. Yes, sometimes it's inconvenient if you're going for a loan, but last week I had to run down to Cordova and run some errands, and it was freezing. So we went to the park for 15 minutes till the library opened up. We went to the Cordova branch, and we will make a day sometimes of going down to Benjamin Hooks, which for the children's section is an experience in itself. With the Magnetile House, and I don't know if it's supposed to be the Lorax, but it looks like it. So for my family, we have access to a large number of current, in particular, books for young people at Bartlett. When you're searching, a lot of the more in-demand books you have more copies at Bartlett than at other branches, but we have the option for our family to become not only citizens of Bartlett, but also part of the larger Memphis community. And we have a choice about that. With Shelby County Schools, you went to these schools run by Shelby County because you lived in Bartlett. I have a choice about where I drive this Saturday versus next Saturday in a way I didn't with the schools. So for that reason, I think that this is a situation in which the citizens of Bartlett benefit from being a larger part of the Memphis community instead of only here in the wonderful and vital community that we have here in Bartlett.
Thank you, ma'am.
Stephanie McGee, 3527 Ripple Chase Drive. I think you guys have been looking at this just from the board's point of view and not the citizens' point of view. It's very valid that you haven't got calls back, that you've had issues. But if what the Memphis Library said was correct, you haven't also looked at the contract in 20 years. So maybe there's some renegotiating there. You should get calls back, and we should have things in circulation. But what you're asking the citizens is to lose a 90% of circulation and pay $50 a year. I don't want to do that. That sucks. So yeah, I think we should stay with Memphis System. There are issues. They're here now. We should definitely work with them. But from a citizen's point of view, you're asking us to lose a lot and spend more money. I don't think you guys wouldn't do that if that was a deal presented to the city. If we were talking about where we should live, would I want 1/10 of the services and pay more money, or 10 times the services and pay less money? It's sort of like, do I want to live in Bartlett or Memphis? I picked Bartlett, sort of. So yeah, I just think maybe look at this from a citizen's point of view. You're asking us to give up a lot and pay more, which is not really on brand for the city of Bartlett. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jeff Berry. I live at 6313 Constance Avenue in Bartlett. I've lived in Bartlett, owned a house in Bartlett for the last 32 years. I've lived in Shelby County for my entire life, for 57 years. And of the last 50 years, I've had one of these. This is my Memphis and Shelby County Public Library card. I don't want to put the hands of our public library into a private corporation. I don't want to give up access to the 1.5 million resources at the Memphis Public Library and not be able to go to the Benjamin Hooks Library or the Cordova Library without laying down money that for the last 50 years of my life have been at my disposal as a citizen of Shelby County. And I have a vested interest in this. I have a 1.5-year-old grandson who is a citizen of Bartlett. So it doesn't just affect us, it affects future generations. As one of the previous speakers said, going to the children's section at Benjamin Hooks is an experience that I hope each of you have experienced with your children or grandchildren. We won't have access to that anymore, at least not to check out books without buying a $50 card. And I just hate to see us give up the benefit of what we've had for so many years. I know there's problems with the Memphis system. I hope they can be worked out. I hope we can stay within the system rather than turn it over to a corporation that's currently running one library. I think we could do better to run it ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else coming forward at this time, anybody that would wish to speak in opposition to continuing the Memphis Library Agreement, please come to the microphone and state your name and address at this time.
Hello, Wendy Lynn, 6343 Thistle Point. That was the hardest part of tonight, remembering my address. I've heard a lot of talk tonight about the big collection, and Memphis does have a large collection. My greatest concern is that the statistics showed 1/4 of the Bartlett citizens have used the library in the past 6 months and more. Another concern I had was with some of the other statistics from Avenue relating to library usage. Bartlett ranked lower than the nation, lower than the state, lower than Memphis, lower than Germantown, lower than Collierville. That's appalling. Someone tonight mentioned that Bartlett is a reading community. I believe at one time that was true. Collierville, I know, manages its own library system, but Collierville and Germantown had very high test scores on their state achievement tests. They have high library usage. I see a correlation there. Again, Bartlett's scores were not where they should have been. I'm concerned about the literate behavior of our community. I am in favor of going with Avenue because I think they bring a lot of energy. I think they bring a voice to Bartlett. That is what I saw when I toured Germantown. I've been a Bartlett resident for over 30 years, and I am a doctor of reading education, so it's a passion of mine. I live it, I breathe it, and that's what I want for others. And I ask you please to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollar and do what is right for Bartlett. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi. William McManus, 6486 Ruffle Cove. Excuse me. Boy. I want to correct the impression that I'm for or against the privatization. I'm actually agnostic, so I didn't know what line to stand in. But I contacted some folks at the Germantown Library and some other folks here about the advantages, and I have basically the same concerns. The amount of selections, the kids' selections and activities for them. Interlibrary loan, I one of those people who ordered rare or reference books, probably one of the minorities, so I may have to cough up for that $50, but it seems to me that Avenue could offer what you're looking for. But I have a couple concerns before I could throw in my complete support. One, the business of having one bidder in today's day and age, I don't think that's acceptable. You may have published it, but my understanding is published in pretty rare or small circulations. If you know there are other options, I would suggest contacting the other known competitor or competitors and see if they're interested. If you have a no, then that's your answer, and that's fine. But again, I'm getting the sense that there's another option about privatization using our own personnel. I didn't really hear much about that. Does it have to go to a private corporation? I'm not so sure about that. And lastly, if you are going to outsource, I think the business of making the staff, or not making a whole lot of money, re-interview for what they're making, I think that's unconscionable. Make contract, accept the staff, at least for a certain period of time. They can fire them at will someday, that's fine. You can't force them to keep somebody forever, I understand, but these people are working people. Can't do that. That's it, thank you.
We now move to the public hearing portion for Avenue. Anybody wishing to speak in favor for Avenue, please come to the microphone and state your name.
I made it. Hi, my name is Kathy Plumley Herbert. I live at 4224 Larkhill Cove in Bartlett. It'll be 19 years coming up in February. I love Bartlett. I also believe that's about the time that the library's been around, probably about 19 years. My memory serves me right. But each year it has deteriorated, okay? Have you ever visited the Germantown Library? The only thing that's missing there is a Starbucks and a fireplace. I mean, it's a place of gathering, not just checking out books. My kids went to that library. They're grown now. I have a lot of good memories there, checking out books, spending time with them, the little reading groups that the kids went to and such. I think if we aim high, the Bartlett Library could be a top-notch library. I really do. Their programs incorporate other areas of the city, such as Astrology Club, the Garden Club, to just name a few of them. In the last meeting with the public library, advised that they hired a consultant to correct the problems. Let me make it very clear that the consultant was hired to fix the issue that the Memphis Library is dealing with initially, but that didn't work. They also have missed multiple meetings and did not have an answer, only that the consultant was hired. Collierville, Germantown, Millington, Arlington, each have their own library. We are the only suburb that has not left the library system. We have Great Bartlett Schools, Bartlett Police Department, the parks, just to name a few. It is time that we had our own Bartlett Library, I believe. So that's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to come forward? Okay, we will adjourn the public hearing on the managed services for public library. Madam Clerk, will you read item number 7 into the record, please?
Managed services for the Bartlett Recreation Center.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before the opening of the public hearing, I'd ask Mr. Paul Wright and Michael Goldberg to come forward and make a few comments on behalf of the Parks and Recreation.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. Thank you for your time this evening. Bartlett Recreation Center has been in existence since the year 2000, so we are now moving into our 24th year of operation. Unfortunately, we have had more years than not where we have not met the expenses that we have incurred. We have had increased competition over the years. That's been one of the bigger challenges. When we first built the facility back in August of 2000 when it opened, we were pretty much the only game in town. Now we have within a stone's throw of a 3 to 5 mile radius about 16 direct competitors, whether that's a boutique style club or it's an Esporta, Planet Fitness, things of that nature. So there is increased competition. We've not been as agile as we've needed to be to respond to that. Historically, we've operated the facility more so as an amenity versus a for-profit or a health club type model. Those are two very different parameters. So that is another obstacle that we have been working through and talking through. What are things that we can do differently? And then lastly, of course, it goes without saying that obviously we're coming out of a pandemic within the past 3 years. If you look at the bar graph there to the right, that shows just historic data for the U.S. fitness club industry as a whole. And you can see that bar graph has been extremely depressed since the COVID pandemic with minimal movement upwards. And the same can be true in terms of the data that you see in terms of the revenue versus expenses. We have incurred an average of around $300,000 to $400,000 in a loss since 2019. If you look back at that data even prior to 2019, for the better part of the decade of the 2010s, we also operated at a loss of around $200,000 on average. Some years upwards of $250,000, some years slightly above $100,000. But we have historically operated as a loss. Those are things that we want to do differently. So we've spent a significant amount of time over the past several months. What can we do to address those obstacles? What can we do differently in order to move that to becoming a revenue neutral facility? It's not something that we've taken lightly. We've really put a lot of thought and effort into that. There's really kind of a three-legged stool that is required in order for us to move into a revenue neutral situation. First and foremost is membership retention.
Paul, could I
Yes,
interrupt just a second? Ma'am, could you go back to the previous screen?
Yes, sir.
Could you give an explanation for FY24?
Certainly, yes. So before moving into how do we address it, so currently we're at a loss of $320,000 to date in this year's fiscal year. If you project that out through the end of this fiscal year, it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $450,000 to $500,000. Part of that is we had a significant capital expense. We had to replace our HVAC units in the gymnasium to the tune of around $200,000. So that's a big piece of that pie. And all of the numbers that you see in those columns there on the FY19 forward do include capital expenses. But that is obviously an expense of operating and running a facility like the Bartlett Recreation Center. So right now we're on trend for about a $450,000 to $500,000 loss.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So what are we going to do to address that? So again, it's pretty much a three-legged stool that it needs to stand on. Number one, first and foremost, is retaining the memberships that you have there. It is much less expensive to retain those who are already doing business with you than it is to go out and try and find new ones. Currently, we have approximately 2,600 memberships at the rec center. Back in 2019, the last year that it was profitable, we had closer to 2,900 to almost 3,000 memberships. And we've not obviously recovered all of those. We were, prior to COVID, again, 300 to 400 membership units above where we are currently. Our current retention rate right now is about 57%. In an industry average should be around 70%. So we need to do a better job of retaining our members. How can we do that? Several ways that we can do that. Number one is we look to the existing members to help us recruit additional members. So do we have referral programs that we could put in place? Those are things that we have not done previously. Again, we've operated more as an amenity versus a traditional health club type model. So referral programs incentivize the existing membership to bring their friends, their family members, their neighbors to the facility. That would help boost retention because you see more familiar faces there with you, so you want to continue to go on. You've got a workout partner that's going to help keep you accountable. You're going to tend to utilize the membership. Excuse me. Running various membership promotions throughout the year involving limited time opportunities, whether there's discounted rates or you add bonus months to that if they sign for a full year term. Again, those are strategies that we have not previously employed. Again, we operated more as an amenity versus a health club type model. Targeted advertising to continue to attract new members. Some of the things that our membership coordinator and our membership team have done in recent months is look to how can we reach those who are new residents coming into the city of Bartlett. Having a new resident welcome packet that realtors can hand off to those potential home buyers to come into the Bartlett Recreation Center. So those are strategies that we're looking at to also get the word out in terms of targeted advertising. And again, that's part of increasing membership numbers. Membership numbers, again, need to be somewhere around 3,300 to 3,500 membership units in order for us to be a revenue neutral facility based upon existing membership rates. But that doesn't necessarily address the potential capital expenses that would continue to occur. Again, a 24-year-old facility is going to continue to have issues that need to be addressed. HVAC units in other areas of the facility, roofs, flooring, plumbing, electrical, you name it, that list is going to continue to grow as that facility ages. So we're not just talking about retaining members, we're not just adding membership numbers, but we need to also seriously consider whether or not we add an increase to the fees that we're currently charging. In the 24-year history, we have only raised rates twice. The most recent time that we raised rates was in 2019, and it was by approximately 12%. Is that correct? About 12% at that time. We're looking at minimum in the next fiscal year, 17 to 20%, upwards of over the course of the next few years, about a 40% bump in rates in order to find that happy medium between the number of memberships that we have and the price point that is there. Now, what is tenable? It's hard to say what that is. There's certainly research to show that for each dollar that you increase a membership, your ability to continue to retain that individual or that family unit is going to decrease by each dollar that raises up. So that presents an additional challenge. So, for example, say we raise the rates 20% next year. Well, what if we lose 20% of the existing members? We really haven't done anything other than spin our wheels. So we do have a significant number of challenges facing us, and it would be a slow process in order to get us there, but I do have confidence that we have the right staff in place. But I'm asking you to give us time, and that time is probably a 5 to 7 year period. We already did a presentation at our work session back in December, and revenue neutral is probably around January of 2029. That's about a 5-year period from now. So it's going to be at minimum 5-year process for us to get to that point. But again, continuing to do the work over time to continue to evaluate and identify what are ways that we can continue to make this a revenue neutral, that it is paying for itself. It'd be great if we can turn a profit as well, but at minimum, this facility does need to cover the costs that are being incurred on it. I don't envy the position that each of you are in up here today. You will have a very difficult decision ahead of you. And as an elected official, that is why you are in that position, is to make those difficult decisions that are here before the citizens of Bartlett, to do what you feel is best for them. And what I am asking for you tonight is to make a decision. Either it's yes, you're going to let us to continue to do the hard work that lies ahead and make the changes that need to occur, or it's a yes to the YMCA, who will be speaking shortly, and allow them to do the work that is ahead. But regardless, there is change that has to come ahead of us. Either it's going to be the hard work that we're going to do, or it's going to be the hard work the YMCA is going to do, and we will partner with them in that process. But I implore each of you to make a decision tonight. Do not push it down the road. Do not table this decision. It needs to be either yes to the Parks Department and we're moving forward, or it's yes to the YMCA and we're moving forward, so that our employees can be at ease and there can be no more stressful nights, sleepless nights of what happens next, what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen the next day from there. Thank you.
Michael, did you want to say anything?
Yeah,
okay. Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Michael or Paul? Alderman Reeves?
I don't know if you have this kind of data, but what other cities our size are operating an amenity like a rec center and running it kind of like we do? Do you have any data on that, Paul? Or
I don't have any specific data to that end. Now, Germantown will be the closest. Now, however, they have made changes in recent years where it is an enterprise fund versus initially when that facility was opened, it was owned by the city of Germantown, operated as an amenity. However, it has in more recent years moved into that enterprise fund model where it is a self-funded, self-sustained entity.
So did the city of Collierville used to have a similar model and then they went with the Y for management, or do you know? Because I know that Collierville has a Y now.
They do have a Schilling Farms, and I don't recall that information, whether that was once their facility and the Y took that or not.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure from a trend viewpoint. I get this. I get why we did it 20 years ago, because there was nothing other than ATC Fitness in town for the most part,
Sure.
to go work out. So, I get that. And I understand competition. What do you feel like, and I'm asking you to give me your professional opinion, or either you or Michael, why do we struggle to have membership retention at the Bartlett Rec? Is it the amenity that we're providing? Are people looking for other things? Is it there's just so much competition that people can kind of pick and choose? I want to go to HotWorks and go to hot yoga.
Sure.
I want to go to CrossFit. Yeah. Why are we struggling to compete in this market?
Sure. I'll provide a feedback, and then I'll certainly give Michael the opportunity, being the facility manager there, who may have a little bit different insight. So from my perspective, it's a combination of several factors. So competition is certainly a big piece of that. Again, running it more as a traditional amenity, we may not be as proactive in regards to a system or a process in place to ensure that there are touch points that occur over that course of time that might occur elsewhere. Again, in COVID, provided opportunities to people to look at things differently. A lot of folks went into the process of, okay, how can I continue to do this? My club has been shut down because of the various restrictions that have been put in place. So a lot of people invested in home fitness. They went to the outdoors. Yeah. You see outdoor fitness trends becoming much more prevalent these days than had been previously as well. And then I'll turn over to Michael for any additional feedback on that.
Sure. Obviously, as you talked about, you mentioned competition. 2000, we were the only game in town. And if you were in Arlington, the number of people that we had drive from Arlington, Lakeland to come to our center, because it was the hub. It was the centerpiece of really the north part of Shelby County. What happened obviously over time and over what we've seen over the last 24 years is that now Lakeland is moving forward, and they have some options coming with the YMCA. Arlington has options out there. They have more boutique fitness specifically out there. So where we found that people who could drive 5 minutes to their health and wellness opportunity versus driving 15 minutes or 17 minutes to come here. Yeah. So changes also that, and also changes in as he talked about the trends in fitness and outdoor fitness versus what the traditional club that we've got.
What percentage of our memberships are outside of Bartlett, non-residents? Do we know of our active membership?
Yeah, we're around 30 to 35% would be non-resident members. The vast bulk is Bartlett residents. And again, just to build on the previous answer, again, the club was built in 2000.
Yeah.
There was an addition that was expanded within 2 to 3 years, and then there have not been really any major changes within the club. We've certainly swapped out some equipment here and there and some flooring, but again, a lot of the spaces are not being utilized as effectively as they might need to be based on current trends today. Racquetball, for example, was a booming sport in 2000. Those 2 courts you couldn't get on. It's like pickleball is today. It's very difficult for you to get onto a pickleball court when you want it. Well, nowadays, the racquetball courts, you have pockets of time where they're booked and utilized, but for the most part, that space is not utilized. So that's another tactic that we would be looking at moving forward if the vote is yes, the Parks Department continues to operate it, is what pockets of that facility need to be transitioned and repurposed. So, for example, take one of those racquetball courts and make it a functional fitness facility. You can add a second floor to that because there's plenty of space from floor to ceiling, and then you can expand that upwards area where the spin studio is and add additional opportunity for group exercise, a larger spin class, while you still have that functional fitness happening on that ground floor.
How many Bartlett memberships, and how many of those are active, as in they've been, do you have this data as in the past 30 days?
Yeah, so we have about 1,600 Bartlett memberships, whether it's a single, a family, a senior, or a senior family. Okay. And in terms of utilization...
That's a unit, right?
Unit, right, not actual membership.
How many unique memberships do we have?
So unique memberships, meaning how many options?
Yeah, like a single...
There are 45 different, if that's what you're asking.
I'm asking how many, so you have a family unit is like a unit, and then you have like a single, kind of up here. So how many of those are kind of just unique members? What I'm trying to get to is that you said we have around 1,500 Bartlett memberships? Is that
about 1,600 memberships, correct.
1,600
the bulk of which would be family memberships out of that number.
I'm just trying to figure out how many people that represents.
Yeah, so we're looking at about probably 4,000 roughly if you look at your families versus individual members.
Active.
Correct. Well, active-wise, so if you look at our number of scan-ins, we had about 3,800, and let me look at the specific number, 3,238 scan-ins in the last calendar year. Of those scan-ins, so that's a member every time you come in, you're supposed to swipe your card, about 33% of those visited the club 10 times or less. So those would be our quote-unquote inactive. So about 1,000 of those scan-ins only scanned in 10 times or less over the course of the year.
So around 1,000 people that are actively using it on a consistent basis.
2,000 actively, but beyond 10 times in a year, and then 1,000 that were not using it more.
And about a population of 60,000? We're around 60,000 people? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. That's all I need. Thank you. Good stuff.
Alderman King.
Paul, thank y'all for coming out, your presentation. On your numbers in the 5 years to break even, in that, is there capital improvement money for adding like outdoor pool or doing that construction you have, or are you looking at...
Yeah, I mean, in order to cover costs like that, so adding additional amenities, whether it's...
Is that in that numbers that you do have planned on things to add, or are you looking at grants to do that, or do you have a plan that, hey, in 10 years we look to be here and have this profile or floor plan at this center? Do you have any of that?
So in terms of price points on memberships, again, we need to be much more agile in terms of how often those membership rates may need to be adjusted. So only twice in 24 years is probably not the ideal timeline. It may need to be every 2 to 3 years, if not sooner, to be more responsive, and it needs to be more incremental. Now, it's finding that sweet spot between what is the cost for the membership, how many memberships do we have overall, and trying to balance all those out. Again, as I mentioned earlier, for each dollar that you're raising it up, you're also going to see a certain percentage that may not want to be retained the next time that membership is up for a renewal. So it's a moving target in a lot of respects. Now, other funds that we do look for, we're always looking for grant opportunities. We would love to have sponsorship opportunities as well. So finding those public-private partnerships, whether we can get some investments from Bartlett area businesses, whether it's a Brother Industries or a Memphis Record Pressing or a Brim's Snack Foods, or working and partnering with them do we need to have naming rights within the center so that we have the Brother Industries basketball facility, and we have the Memphis record pressing group exercise studio. So looking outside of the box traditionally of what we have done are all those things that we're looking at moving forward in order to make something like that a reality. Because truth be told, right now at the current rates, there's no way that we could afford anything of a capital expense. Yeah.
Thank you all. Appreciate you.
Alderman Quinn.
Thank you, and thank you all for the presentation, everything that you do for the citizens. Really appreciate it. And I want to kind of piggyback on what Alderman King said about looking at some of the deficits. And I know, I think we replaced some air conditioning units on top of the building. That's crane. Isn't that about $100,000?
Right, so the ones we just did, $186,000 for the 2 units that we just replaced at the gymnasium this year.
Right, so does that number reflect on?
That is reflected in the numbers.
Okay, because it doesn't take very many of those to have $500,000.
Correct.
And on a 24-year-old building. And also, I know that we have been purchasing equipment in the past instead of leasing it, so we can't have the quick turnaround. But do you have any rough idea what it costs to replace the equipment in the building every time we do it?
Sure. Absolutely. So if we were to come in and take the current equipment that we have, trade that in, and then go into a lease purchase option with a different vendor, whether that's Life Fitness, Matrix, whoever it is, you're essentially looking at a 3-year lease is about anywhere between, depending on the consoles, everything that you would choose, all the different weight equipment, anywhere between $315,000 to $340,000, which roughly turns out to be about $9,000 a month over the life of that loan, or that lease, over the next 3 years, 36 months.
I'm sorry, I appreciate that, but I guess I didn't clarify myself. But in the past, when the policy was that parks had to purchase that stuff, do you have any rough idea, what that cost? Because I had to figure it into some of that too.
Sure. So obviously, we've got aging equipment across all of, whether it be our cardio equipment. Our hammer strength equipment is actually the original hammer strength equipment that was purchased at the inset of the recreation facility. So each facility or each piece of equipment could be anywhere from a treadmill that could be anywhere between $4,000 to $7,000 a piece, where we've got 36 different pieces of cardio equipment right there, all of our weight equipment, and not to mention the shipping of it, just to get it here, just to the sheer weight and size.
Yeah, so we have spent a lot of money on equipment because we didn't purchase it. We purchased it instead of leasing it. Okay, and I do apologize for going on this, but do you think that Singleton and the free racquetball courts and stuff have kind of cannibalized the offerings of the rec center? And maybe people are like, I don't need to come in there and play racquetball. I can go to the free racquetball courts, so they're playing basketball at Singleton, or go to some of the yoga classes or various other things that are offered there.
Sure. One of the things that we have done over the last year is we've kind of realigned what our offerings are. Where there used to be fitness classes offered at Singleton, we have unified that into just the classes. For example, a Mommy and Me yoga class that used to be at Singleton, or a chair yoga that used to be at Singleton, is now housed in our facility here at the Bartlett Recreation Center. One thing that we figured is, why try to duplicate what we're already doing, and let's reevaluate and restructure our efforts and our time to get things that all of our citizens want. And that's obviously part of the big master plan that we have for Parks and Recreation.
Okay, I'm sorry. And the last question. Because we're talking about with the YMCA, how much money we're going to put into it, especially for like the summer experience and stuff like that, going halves with them on $6 million or more, who knows what it'll be by the time we start. But what kind of spend do you think we would need to do to attract more of these membership units? Maybe to get it back where it was or closer. And I guess that would include leasing new equipment and get rid of some of the 24-year-old equipment.
Sure. I think that any time that you do, and I think the YMCA would talk about it as well, any time that you get to redo your facilities, and that's new flooring, new equipment, new paint, anything that you can do that shows people, whether that is your current membership and in part of retention, that you're investing into that facility. An HVAC unit that we spent $186,000 feels great in the gym, and they love that, but it's not new and shiny. They don't see that. They don't climb up on the roof and see those improvements, right? All we see is what's in the facility itself. So I think that's obviously a big portion of it, is to have new and leased equipment. That's going to show people, and that's going to be a big opportunity to start getting newer people in here to see what we truly have to offer. And I'll be honest, when you get in and you find out There's much more to the Bartlett Recreation Center than just a place to work out, to lift weights, or to take classes. It's more about the community of what we do. And a big portion of it, and we've seen the increase over the last year with our new fitness manager who's been in place, we've seen the increase in our group exercise numbers. And that's a big portion to get moving towards, whether it be revenue neutral or revenue positive.
Okay, I guess my point, and I'm sorry I won't belabor
No, sure.
the point, but I'm just saying is, if we made the investment ourselves to take the plan that y'all are working on and see, I just didn't know if you have a rough idea, because we have an idea how much a summer experience would cost, and that's something I think is a great idea, or at least an outdoor pool that people are always calling for. So you think with the same amount of money, we could make a difference? That we were talking about for the Y or something, $6 to $8 million or something.
If we were to be able to invest that into our own
Yes.
part of it, I think if you could write me a check for $6 million, sure, we could do that. That's obviously the price tag that we've looked at it. But before we can do that and move forward with any of our capital projects like a summer experience that they talk about, is we first got to get revenue neutral, and that's going to be the uphill battle. It's a big mountain to climb that we've got to start, and that's where we employ you guys to make that decision here tonight.
Yeah, well, I believe their point was, the point's been made, is something like that would bring us to that, build it and they will come kind of thing. So that's what I was asking. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Young.
I got a question, Paul. How many members belong to the rec center that live outside of Bartlett?
So approximately 30 to 35% of our memberships are outside of the city limits. So we have about 2,600 memberships, which is somewhere around 7,000 to 8,000 people. Of that, about 30 to 35% would be non-residents.
Okay. You indicated we had 1,600.
Well, 1,600 membership units, correct. So that would be the combination of single memberships, family memberships. Some families may have 4, 5, 6 individuals in my household.
I understand, but
Sure.
the total memberships are 2,600.
2,600 roughly memberships. Of that represents about 7,000 to 8,000 total people. And so
I'm trying to reach this 2,600 number.
Sure.
And if there's 1,600 memberships in Bartlett, then you're telling me there's 1,000?
Well, there's also employees, so I don't include the employee memberships within the non-resident total. So another large chunk of our membership units would be our employee memberships. Both are Bartlett City Schools as well as City of Bartlett employees.
Okay, I'm trying to
Yes, sir. Yes,
arrive at your 2,600
and I believe
number,
we
and I'm having
provided
a hard
those
time getting
breakdowns, if I'm not mistaken, in the packet. If not, I can get that information in your hands.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Alderman Williams, did you have a question?
Thank you all for everything that you do. And presenting all of this to us, and just piggybacking off of Alderman. So the other 1,000, that includes City Bartlett workers. So that's going to be like a discounted membership, right? So
That is correct.
From a revenue standpoint, it's not bringing in as much as the 1,600 memberships.
Correct.
And just while I was calculating, so from fiscal year 2019 to current, the rec center has been in a deficit. If you total it all up, it looks like about $1,611. $1,611,473. So it's
a big number.
It's a big number,
Yes, ma'am.
And my concern with all of this, and I know the Y is going to get up and talk about it. The whole time it's all about, and I've spoken to both of you all about it, it's just the human resource side of it. I'm just concerned with the deficit, and I know you guys are working really hard to come up with a plan to move it forward and figure out ways to bring money back into the rec center, and I'm very thankful for that. Like I said, I learned how to swim at the rec center at 42, so I was an adult learning how to swim, so it was
Good for you.
but I learned how to swim at the rec, so I have a love for it as well. But my concern is the human resource side of it, with the losses that we're taking and looking at all these faces out here, and these are Bartlett residents, and I know how much they love, the way we are right now. I just don't see, from a business standpoint, how do we continue on, in this deficit and then trying to do new things to try to bring the money in, because in that we're still going to be taking a loss while that's going on. So I just kind of wanted to go on record and say, I thank you guys for the plan, and I'm just concerned about the people and being able to sustain employment. My thing is, as an older woman, is that I couldn't sleep at night if I knew people were not having to lay people off, or as we talked about in these last sessions, having positions open for over, I don't know how long was the position, over a year, because we haven't been able to fill it, and someone having to operate in two or three positions, one person carrying that, and that's just not really a good work-life balance either for them. But I just wanted to put that on record and say I really appreciate all the hard work you guys are doing to try to make this thing work. I'm just concerned about the people.
Anyone else? Thank y'all. This time we'd like to bring the YMCA staff up.
Thank you, Mayor and the Board of Aldermen. We've already gone through our presentation, so I'm going to hit the highlights and the things that have really come up over the last couple weeks. And the first thing that I want to start with is that the Y is really excited about deepening our partnership and services into Bartlett. For over 30 years, the Y has been in Bartlett. We are in the schools, we are partnering with churches, and we're providing meals to kids, and we're serving residents through programs and services. And we see an opportunity to go deeper in that ability to serve the residents of Bartlett through a public-private partnership. The public-private partnership is the new way that municipalities, government, and frankly, organizations like the Y are able to offer these services together. They're not being built independently across the country right now. We understand that the power of the two organizations together can really yield strong outcomes for the people that use them, the residents in this case of Bartlett. And this public-private partnership, the city owns the building, and the Y operates the services within that building. Now, the building's important because the building are just walls. And one of the things that we are committed to and that we've said all along is that a YMCA is made of the people that are within those walls, the people within those communities, the family that is formed there. And I can tell you, we clearly see the community that has been built at the Bartlett Rec Center. And we need to, we want to, and we're committed to make sure that that community feel stays the same. And, we've heard that, well, the YMCA is this big organization. Well, that is true. But I can guarantee you, if you go to our local YMCAs, if you go to the Cordova Y, or you go to the Schilling Farms Y, or you go to the Newber Y, all of them feel very different. They have their own culture because the community really is in control and builds what we call a YMCA. And so, when we start thinking about why the Y and what the benefits are, one, what we just heard is the Y is confident in our functional expertise to take on the risk of this gap or deficit that is here currently. Many people have asked me, well, why would the Y do something like that? Well, it's because we're confident that we can do this. We all went through COVID too. And we are confident through the expertise that we bring to be able to do this. And we've been doing it for a long time. So we are okay with that risk. When we come in to the Bartlett Rec Center, if this vote goes through, we understand the facility has to be upgraded. We understand that there has to be an investment in the equipment, in things that I just heard about yesterday about starting blocks because they haven't been able to host swim meets there. We have to get the facility new, shiny, and we have to give the people there their value, and we have to have other people see their value. And when we think about this, we also, in the Y, taking that that gap, that cost that is costing the city right now. The city has the ability to invest that in other programs or services and priorities that citizens may need. And currently, right now, across our branches right now, we are serving about 3,000 membership units. Those are people that are Bartlett residents that are driving to a YMCA. That accounts for about 11,000 people. 11,000 residents are leaving Bartlett and going to another YMCA. So when we start talking about the membership rates, we've said the Y is not coming in to raise membership rates. Actually, that is not a strategy. It's completely counterintuitive to what we're trying to do. You can go out here and get a membership for $10 and $20, and you can go to all of the competitors and do that. If we raise membership rates, we know that we will lose a significant number of members out the back door. For every $1, 9% could leave out the back door. We haven't raised our rates. That isn't our strategy. We've been looking at strategies of how do we lower rates at times in certain categories to be able to drive volume and people to come into the Y and see that as their amenity. We've guaranteed a one-way reciprocity, which means that if you join at the Bartlett Rec Center or Bartlett Y, you will be able to use all of the YMCAs in our network that participate in the away program, which are all in the YMCA of the Memphis and the Mid-South. However, if you're a member at another YMCA, you cannot use the Bartlett Center. You have to join there. So what we've agreed to do is that one-way reciprocity and keep the membership policies that are in place right now, where that an outside person is allowed to join at a very significantly higher rate if they're not a Bartlett resident. And then we want to address our senior programs. The Y is committed, and we have agreed to put in our contract to make sure that there's accountability for that every senior in this community has the ability through an insurance-based program, whether that's Silver Sneakers or Silver and Fit, to be able to use the Bartlett Rec Center or the Bartlett Y. And in addition, we will bring more health plans that we currently contract, that people will be able to have a free membership. I talked to a lady yesterday who's paying for her membership currently with the Y. She would have a free membership and we would bill the insurance on the backside. That's really about the people, the members, and we really have to talk about the staff. The staff are really the engine of the center. They are the heartbeat, so to speak. They are the people that help to create that culture and community. And it was a no-brainer from the first time that we started talking to the city that we wanted every employee, full-time, part-time, contract, to be a part of the Y. We have guaranteed them positions, and we have guaranteed that they'll be at their rate or better to come over to the Y. We have comparable benefits. And for part-time people, we even offer a retirement fund where we pay 12% of their annual salary into a retirement fund that pays out as an annuity over time. So we are investing in the people, and we want to bring that family along and bring them into the Y family. And then when we start talking about the investment over time, when we come in, we've said we're going to invest money right up front, over $400,000 to put new equipment in, to make spaces that are, unusable, like a racquetball court or things like that. That's just the first step. There has to be continual improvement all the time. You have to continue to invest in that facility all the time. Yearly upgrades in equipment and new fitness programs, innovative things like our Power 40 fitness programs, things like that have to continue to come so that we can continue to retain members but bring new members in. We've done lots of studies on the Bartlett market, and you don't have to go outside of Bartlett to get your membership numbers. Your membership numbers are living right in Bartlett right now. The facility was built for 3,500 units. That clearly it's not at the 3,500 unit mark, and I would even argue that it could go above 3,500 units if you look at how the spaces are laid out and the purpose of those spaces long term. And then part of the why is we have expertise in fundraising. You know, there are lots of chances and abilities and partnership opportunities where either we can work together to get a grant or that the YMCA can fundraise on our own to be able to provide different amenities like the summer outdoor experience. So we've said, you know, the Y is committed to putting $3 million in. We think the project's going to be about $6 million. But what if we fundraise that? What if we fundraise that and we don't put any money in? It's no taxpayer monies, but it's a taxpayer amenity that they can use as part of the rec center. And the last thing that I'm going to say is that, and I started with it, was that together we can serve more people. We can do more together, and we are confident that a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, we'll still have the same feel, the same culture, but we'll have a product where the people in Bartlett are talking about they want to be there because that is the hub of this community.
Thank you. Open the floor up for any questions. Alderman Reeves.
Thank you, and appreciate the presentation. One of the big things, and I'd like you to address this because I think this is a concern of citizens, and I don't know how we overcome it, but the Y, or the YMCA, kind of has a negative connotation associated with it. And from what I hear from a lot of the people in the community is, that's an inner city gym. We don't see that in other places, you know, and it's going to degrade, you know, our gym. How do you address that? And don't get me wrong, I've went out and looked at where you have locations. You got them in Brentwood, Franklin, you got them in Knoxville, Clarksville, you got them in Collierville, you got them in Germantown, you got them down. I mean, they're in affluent communities. Lakeland's putting one in Lakeland as well. And so how do you address that? Because that is one of the biggest complaints that I hear from citizens here is that that's just an inner city organization. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I kind of started with it is that every Y really looks like the community and the people that make that Y, right? And so every Y looks really different, which is the blessing and the curse of the Y brand, right? Is that, you know, you can go to Schilling Farms and have one culture, one feel. You can go to another community and have another feel. What we're committed to is making sure that we invest the money that's in that community into that facility to continue to keep that facility, pristine, I guess, or that facility upkept so that people can use that. And so, the one thing I also will address is that we've put a couple things in place. One is that YMCAs do operate independently and locally. We have a local board of directors that everybody thinks that we're connected to the Chicago office. We're not. Our board makes independent decisions here. Again, YMCAs look very different, whether they're in California or they're in Memphis, Tennessee, or they're in Bartlett, Tennessee, or wherever that may be. But the second thing that we put in place is that, all of our local Ys have what we would say a center board. In this case, this is a very unique board that we've put together where that it is an advisory board, so to speak, that will help to essentially guide decision making. And as the mayor has said, it's really a three-legged stool. It's the city, the Y, and the advisory board that all hold us accountable to the, what we've said and the expectations of the residents.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, that's just through some of the emails that I got, and I know maybe a difficult conversation to have, but that's on people's minds. So the real goal is for the Ys to really represent the community that they're serving, right? And obviously every location has its own DNA, its own culture, just in general of people, different types of people, and that's fine, right? But you know, my wife, one of the first things she was like, why? You know, I mean, and if you think about the YMCA song, you know, think about the Village People and things like that, you know. But the reality is, when you really, we've been to a bunch of Ys, they've been fantastic experiences. So I think, you know, to some degree, there's a little bias when it comes against the Y. But so I just wanted you to kind of address that, and I think you did. The other thing that I'm really interested in as it pertains to the Y, and this is going to be more of a statement, we built an asset and didn't invest in it. And the question is, are we going to ever invest in it? When we have roads that need to be paved, we have benefits that need to be enhanced in this city, we have all these other things that we have to pay for. Yet we have an asset that we don't put money and invest into. But it needs to be an asset for the city. What makes the most sense, right? Are we ever going to do that without touching people's tax rate? And I know a lot of people don't want that to happen. So this is a unique opportunity to allow someone who knows how to do this work to invest in it and make it a community asset while we continue to work on the foundational components of the city and what needs to be fixed, like road paving.
Yeah.
Like police officer and first responder benefits and city benefits. Remember those that we cut a few years back? We're doing this on the back of benefits, right? I mean, so those are the types of things that we have to answer, the questions that we have to answer as a board, and we have to look at it holistically for the city in the future. And so that's the reason why I appreciate you coming. I appreciate what this looks like for the city. I know it's going to be really, really tough. But we have tough choices that we have to face right now. Sales tax coming in light. You know, guys, we have a lot of tough decisions to make. So thank you so much. Great presentation, and we'll see what we see. Thank you.
Alderman King, Alderman King, for you, I've noticed a couple of you fanning. Is everybody comfortable? Are you warm or so? The consensus is you're all hot. Okay. Ted or John, could y'all take care of that for us? Thank you. Alderman King.
I appreciate you coming out. If I'm an employee and I've been with Bartlett 15 years or 10 years and I come over with you, you talked about salaries being the same or greater, but I got 10 years here. Do I get vacation as a 10-year person? Do I bring that 10, 15 years over with me if another job comes up and I want to bid on, if y'all have a bid process? Do I carry my time that I had with Bartlett to the YMCA?
Yeah, good question. Sorry I didn't address that. But yes, we are honoring time and service. So if you had 10 years with the City of Bartlett or the Rec Center, then you're going to get 10 years when you come into the Y, and you'll come into our system as a 10-year employee, not a 1-year employee.
All right, one other question. That you're matching the pay and you're offering a pension with a 12% match or greater. Are part-time eligible for health insurance?
Part-time benefits, there are some health insurance benefits that they are eligible for, not the same as a full-time benefit, though.
Okay.
And there's several factors that go into that, but yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else wish to be recognized? Seeing none, then everybody good then? Thank you. Thank you. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go to the public hearing. If you're in opposition of entering a contract with the YMCA, please come to the microphone and state your name and address at this time.
We meet again.
Twice in 1 week.
It's good to see you all. We had a good meeting last night. My name's Christine Richards. I'm from 8855 Memphis Arlington Road. I appreciate the opportunity to address you all. I appreciate the time you took last night. I really appreciate the slides from the Parks and Recreation folks, because none of that was in the material.
We just got that today.
Well, I really appreciate it. Mm-hmm. It sets the record straight.
Mm-hmm.
We have a problem, and you guys are in a tough spot. And I presume good intentions, just like the chaplain started this meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line is we have a huge asset, a building and a facility and a community around it. And the reason why the Y is interested in us is we have that nice facility. Now, Lakeland doesn't have a facility. They don't want to have to buy one. In this day and age, I wouldn't buy one if I were them. But we have it. And what you're talking about doing is leasing that facility for 25 years to these very well-intended people. I'm not saying they're not. And there's really very little control over it locally. And that's been kind of the theme tonight, local control. I am concerned. I read the contract last night. There are some things that got left out. I'm sure I can talk to you about them afterwards. But these things happen when they get put together. But a couple things. First of all, this is going to be the Bartlett YMCA. That's going to be the name. It's in the contract. And even though it's set up so that people will be told they can't come here unless they join here, they're going to come. And especially if this goes forward with the summer outdoor experience, you're going to have a lot of people who are going to want to come here. And I hope you're thinking about what the cost of that's going to be to keep them from coming here and how viable it is in the long run to maintain that policy. Because I don't think it is. I think you'll end up backing off of it. They are committed to not raising rates for 1 year. But I would just point out to you, we have the room to raise rates without going with the Y. Germantown Athletic Club, this is just for example, their fee for 2 seniors is $799 a year. Ours is $409. There is room to increase revenue here. I could answer your question, Alderman Reeves, real easily, because why we don't have more people staying and coming back, we don't even call. My membership lapsed. It had lapsed for 60 days. They have my email, they have my phone number. Nobody ever called. So I think there's a lot that the Parks and Recreation people should be allowed to do. They can boost the membership. I think we should go in that direction. Now, like I said, everybody's got good intentions. Nobody's trying to do anything untoward here. But I really do think this is something we need to keep local control over.
Thank you.
Linda Booth, 5701 Sleepy Woods Cove. Yes, we meet again. You're the CEO. You're retiring from your company. New CEO comes in. A competitor calls you and says, I'm your competitor, but I have some ideas on how you can make your company better. You listen to him. You think, okay, well, maybe I can discuss it with somebody. So you talk to your chief of staff. Well, okay, well, let's listen to him a little bit more. You go to one of your department heads and say, what do you think about this idea? So let's figure out what the contract, what the terms would be like. Now remember, you're a private company. You make all these decisions. You don't have to let the public know. You people work for us. This is not a private company. You're forgetting you forgot about us, the constituents who put you in your position. Just like the lady said with the library, you're forgetting about the people that live in this community. This feels very underhanded, under the table, wrong. You need to let the public know what you have in mind. You just need to let us know. I've been fired from a job right after we had one of the best years for my position that the company had had. It feels like crap to think you have done a really good job. There might have been some problems, but to be fired and say you're unhappy, that's not right. That's not the way Bartlett has worked in the past. We don't have to do every single thing the same, but you 6, 7, 8 people need to remember who put you in those chairs and talk with us. Let us know what you have in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else that wish to come forward to speak against it or a reason why we should stay with the existing system, please come forward now. Again, if you want to speak against why we should not go with the YMCA, this is your opportunity to come forward.
Yeah, Dave Bensman again. 25-year lease, leasing out that facility for 25 years seems to be kind of like a...
Could you please state your address for the record?
Yeah, 7004 Cane Hill Lane. I mean, it just seems kind of like losing a lot of control for a really long time. I mean, I could be dead in 25 years, but still leasing this to somebody else. I just think it's a really bad idea to lose that much control. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me speak again.
Yes, sir.
You probably know my face, and you probably know my opinion.
Go ahead and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Tim Edwards. I live at 9129 Anderton Springs Drive, and I've lived there for 19 years. All of a sudden, we're going to wake up and we're going to treat the Bartlett Rec Center like it's a business, and you haven't raised the rates. You raised them twice. I know you're not a business. I understand that. We elected you. I got it. But all of a sudden, now, we're going to run the business from a balance sheet and an income statement rather than from a community service type statement. You raised the rates twice in 25 years. This is not a business, okay? Please. Why am I against this? Look at these people. You're going against the will of the people. We elected you. You have the right to do whatever you want to do. We elected you, and I guess we can unelect you. I don't know. Do we want to, I mean, we have to decide, do we want to look like Cordova? Do we want to look like Germantown? Do we want to look like Collierville? If the Y wants to put a facility in Bartlett, build one. I'm sure you'll help them. We have land that we can do that. Why let them come in and steal our baby? Throw out the bathwater, throw out the bad things, but don't let them come in and do this. This is not a good decision. Every day I go into the Bartlett Rec Center, I look at the plaque that's up there, okay? There's 6 councilmen's name on that, and there's a mayor's name on that when that facility was built in 2000. And you know what? It's a great blessing to go there. It's a great blessing to go there. They left a legacy. I don't know what their other legacy was, but I'm thankful that I see that every time I go in there. My question to each one of you, yeah, we've got to do the roads. I got it. We've got other things that we've got to do. But my question to each one of you is, what legacy do you want to live? What do you want to leave for us? Okay? Maybe you ought to think about that before you vote. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak against the YMCA contract? Okay. Those in favor, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, please.
Mayor and Board of Aldermen, thank you for this opportunity. Kerry Vaughn, I'm the CEO of Loveworth Finding Ministries at 2941 Cape Bond here in Bartlett, Tennessee. I've had the privilege and really the great honor to serve on the board of the local Memphis Metro Y for the last 20 years. So I've had the position of looking at the Y from the outside in. And I'll just say a couple of quick things. Number one, care. You know, back in February and March of 2020, when many of us was transitioning back to home, the Y transitioned into a venue that actually provided child care for the essential workers. They also transitioned into feeding our students, and not just feeding our students here locally. I mean, that was a task in itself, but feeding students regionally. And then I will say this, the Y also stepped in and hosted virtual learning. And so, in essence, the Y provided that type of care and really stepped in to not only complement Shelby County in a crisis, in an epidemic, but to really save Shelby County in a way. Another word I would use would be credibility. When you look at the YMCA cut the first ribbon on the Fogelman YMCA that backs up to the Redbird Stadium in 1890. President Taft was here for that ribbon cutting ceremony. The YMCA is a household name. David, you're correct. It is. But I think with that comes a lot of potential progress, a lot of effectiveness in these communities. When you go from Trenton, Tennessee, all the way down to Oxford, Mississippi, and around the Memphis metro area, and we've named them, Millington, Cordova, the Newber Y, the Schilling Y, DeSoto County, Olive Branch, that type of credibility, I think, shines through. And not just for virtual learning and the feeding program and child care, but things like youth programs, sports, fitness, aquatics. They do all of that and more at a standard of excellence. And so when you partner with the Y, I wouldn't say turn control over, but when you partner with the YMCA, you're getting that standard of excellence in Bartlett as well. The next word I would use is contribution. I think if you went to any one of those communities that were named, from Trenton to Oxford, all around Memphis Metro, to Millington, Tennessee, the Y that I go to, when you look at every one of those rural areas, every one of those communities would say that the partnership with the Y has been fruitful, and they have been a contributor, not a consumer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Forrestine London, and this is my husband, J.T. London. And we're here to speak on behalf of the YMCA.
And state your address, please.
3737 Davies Manor Drive, Bartlett, Tennessee. If you're looking for someone who can step in at a moment's notice, take over the management of a facility, you're looking at the YMCA. In my opinion, the YMCA is exemplary in nature, in its management and its style of leadership. I have been a partner with the YMCA for many years. I'm 84 years old. I still participate in the YMCA. I do my AOA on Mondays, I do my yoga on Wednesdays, and I do my line dance on Fridays. And I enjoy every bit of it. I wish I could do more. But the YMCA has kept me healthy for a number of years because all of the amenities that they have to offer, all the programs that I'm able to participate in, serving on the Cordova board for many years, it has been a life-sending adventure. Many have talked about the things at the YMCA, so I'm not going to get involved with all of that. The only thing that I can say is all the programs that they have mentioned, in my opinion, they are really, really expert in what they're doing. Family, I haven't heard the word family, but the YMCA is a family YMCA because it serves infants to where I am, okay? They have all kinds of programs for infants, child care, before and after care, all of those programs that they mentioned. So I don't know how to put this, but I'm just simply saying, if you forget the YMCA, you have forgotten one of the best management teams that you will find in this United States. Okay.
Sir, she left you just a little piece.
I'm a little older than she is, maybe. But I served as a volunteer on the board, Metro Board, for a number of years, probably over, if I count them up, probably be over 30 or 40 years. The Y actually is responsible for my kids saving one of their friends while they were in college because they had taken lifeguard, and the training that they had learning to be a lifeguard saved the kid's life. And now one other thing, the Y have put a lot of money in the majority learning to swim. Quite a few majority kids drown trying to swim, and that's a big deal in the YMCA. And the Y that we attend now, well, the Ys, because you can use your membership if you go out of town, but the membership we serve now, we have a lot of friends. When you get our age, you have to have friends that's much younger. And we have quite a bit going there at the YMCA. We have Bible class. We serve, we actually solve all of the problems of the United States on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Our whole life is built around the YMCA. Anything we do is built around Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at the YMCA. So I want to thank you for letting me speak. One other thing before I leave, I used to work for a corporation, and their model was management makes the difference. So try the YMCA, and you'll find out management makes the difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That was awesome. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Pierce Cannon. I have been a Bartlett resident for the last 35 years of my life.
Your address, please.
Oh, yes. 7933 Highman Drive, Bartlett. So I haven't heard anybody say that they've been a Bartlett resident longer than that 35 years. So that makes me feel pretty good. It makes me feel hometown proud. But what I wanted to say is the first job that I ever had was at the Bartlett Rec Center. I was a lifeguard. And I did that, and then I got my water safety instructor certification, and I taught, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 kids a summer. I've always wanted more for the rec center. As long as I've been a member, which is close to 20 years, I've always wanted more for it. And I really do look at this opportunity with the Y as a partnership. I really believe wholeheartedly that that's what it would be. I look at the amenities, the outdoor experience, the pool. It seems like I've been hearing about a pool being built at the rec center ever since I was a lifeguard. Some of you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I'll just make this short and sweet. I think this is a great partnership, and my wife and I and our 3 kids are fully backing it. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Kathy Bickers at 6453 Baird Lane. I've been a resident for, I think, 36 years. So I have adult children and grandchildren who reside in Bartlett. So I am very in favor of the Y coming in and making the Bartlett Rec Center better. And it's a good partnership, and with the facilities being upgraded and especially getting rid of this debt of losing money. I think the money could be better spent on other things. So I am in favor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again. Beth Smith, 8445 Wolf Pine Lane. So I have just a very short anecdote of the care the Y has taken of my family in the context of before school Y care at our elementary school. So I have 2 children in that program this year, and one is a very energetic and impulsive first grader. I don't know if any of you have sons like that, but mine is. And he's had some issues with some of the choices that he was making, and you get to the point as a parent where you go, here we go again, love my kid, please show them how wonderful you are. So we had some conversations with the staff at the school, and they said, and then I got an outreach from the kind of one step up and the overseers of that program. And I went, oh no, here comes the talk about how your child has to straighten up or be kicked out of Y care. And the first thing they asked me is, tell me about your son. Tell me what he's like. Tell me some of the things that you know about him that might give us ideas about ways that we can serve him. Here are some ways that we can increase our communication with you and to kind of help support him from both sides. And that was not exactly the approach that I was expecting at that one, but I appreciated it so much. And so that's an incident of the Y taking very specific care of my family. And if this partnership means they'll do the same for Bartlett, it'd be a very good thing for other families in Bartlett too.
Thank you.
Nick Brimhall, 9221 Hillman Way, and I wanted to state for the record real quick that Mr. Cannon back there, when he stated it and he bragged about his lifeguard abilities, the first time I attempted to swim laps at the rec center, I may have overestimated my abilities. I had to pause briefly on the lane rope. He blew the whistle and laughed at me and told me I couldn't do that. So I just needed to get that out there. I feel a lot better now. I just want to say that my wife, 4 kids, and myself are members of the Bartlett Rec Center and probably use it more than most. We average using the rec center more than 5 times a week. We really enjoy using the rec center. We also enjoy living in Bartlett. It's a well-run city. Thank you for running the city in a way that prioritizes paying bills and avoiding unnecessary deficits. I've lived in another city that is not well-run. It didn't seem to be concerned with limiting deficits or paying bills, and then all of a sudden important things that Bartlett residents take for granted start to suffer. Trash doesn't get picked up on time, utility and transportation infrastructure maintenance falls behind, and first responders don't get paid what they were promised. Those failures all have bad consequences. Those things are more important than a rec center, and I love the rec center. Thank you for working on a plan that addresses, both. It takes care of the important things, but then also has a plan for residents to have a gym and a pool for exercise and social activities. It's become clear after finding out how much money the rec center has been losing that something's going to have to change in order for it to stay functional. And so I realize that if changing it to the YMCA, there will be probably changes that happen at the rec center, obviously, but that doesn't necessarily mean there'll be bad changes. I've been to other YMCAs, spoken with their leadership and the members. The members seem to really like it. Their facilities are nice, seems to be well run. So I don't think Bartlett residents would be worse off.
Thank you.
My name is Shirley Jackson, 6127 York Hill Drive, Bartlett. I'm also a member of the Bartlett School Board. I appreciate the way this board is trying to delegate the tax dollars that you have to work with. When I come to you in the future and say, we've got to build a new school, I don't want you to have to say, well, we don't have the money to do that. I think this is one way that you can invest that money and keep some of that money, tax dollars, into other things that Bartlett needs, not just roads, police officers, pay, benefits, all of those kinds of things we struggle to fund, schools being one of them. So I do appreciate your efforts in that area, and I do support the YMCA.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
Hey, my name is Lindsay Felsberg, and my address is 3173 Woodsman Lane in Bartlett.
I heard some concerns about employee experience with the Y, and I wanted to speak of my experience with the Y. So I started at the Y 7 years ago. I was in nursing school, and I only wanted a job just to get me through. So I started off as a summer camp counselor, making $8.50 an hour, and I had a supervisor at the time that saw a passion in me and saw potential. So she poured in. I took a year off from school because I was questioning what I wanted to do with my life and what I wanted to do, whether it was nursing or something else. And I ended up going back to school, and I now have a bachelor's in education focused in nonprofit work and youth services. I was part-time as a director of Y Play, which is my current position, for 2 years, and over a year ago I was promoted to full-time. I now have the privilege of serving 11 different communities and 80 team members, and we serve 3,600 unique kiddos in all communities. So for me, I know the way that I am with my team, I pour into them and I see growth potential in them. And I know that if the Bartlett REC became the Bartlett Y, they would have that same opportunity. We would take on their employees and also invest growth into them as well. That has been my experience with the Y. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Samantha Lee. I live at 3919 Black Walnut Drive. And as a parent and as a team member of the Y, it gave my daughter experience to learn how to swim, as well as being a site director at Rivercrest Elementary School. We grew more of a connection, and I believe this partnership will help as well as being as a camp counselor, being with the Y for 4 years. I've seen a lot of kiddos swimming, and they learn how to swim, and then they go right back at it, and I believe this will be perfect for us since we have a camp in Bartlett. It'll be easier for us to take them to this site easy, and it gives like a whole community builder. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Crystal Dowdy, 2349 Champaign Street. As a Bartlett resident and also employee of the YMCA, I am passionately speaking for the presence of the Y in the community, advocating its calls for community, principles of purpose, and its missional motto that we all may be one. Let me just say, I am for Bartlett. I'm a hometown gal. I was in your CERT programs. I was in the training at the police academy, putting pictures on the wall. I was friends of the library before we moved from that location. 18 years ago, I bought a house in Bartlett where I raised my 2 children. I take advantage of our beautiful parks, and we are at every festival. I am your girl at the movies in the park with my kiddos on a blanket, first to raise my hand in enthusiasm of our law enforcement, reminding all, you don't mess with Bartlett. Personally, except for when looking at the gym membership, I am also that girl that took my money and commitment out of the city limits and into the Y membership because of the posture of its people, the heart of its vision, and the personal touch it offered my family. They saw me as a person and not a number. I believe that everyone should be a member of the YMCA. We love it. We love it from our community exercise to the Y Play, to Aqua Fitness, which gave me confidence, strength for both the mind and the body. The Y community held my hand in personal breakthroughs, helping me grow in wholeness, healing, and self-development. I am an advocate for wellness living lifestyle because of my involvement as a member of this wonderful organization, the YMCA, and the quality of life that it breathes. I believe so heartedly in the programs, acknowledging that there is space for everyone to find their fit, a purpose for the cause of youth development, the healthy living and social responsibility, that I applied for position in membership services. My point of view is that the YMCA these last few years has helped me into the transformation of the essence of who I was created to be. I give credit to the Y people, members of the culture of the leadership. The YMCA is absolutely encouraging me to live out loud life in my God-given design. The YMCA has taught me that all we do is fitness, whether it be in the mind, body, or spirit. We aim to train for the whole person. Yes, it's all the parts of the whole being. This is what the Y breeds. The whole fit. It's not just a gym. It's about becoming. And that's what the Y has offered to my family of 3, well-being. The Y people have become my family, my mentors, partners in the journey. We celebrate. We laugh, we cry, we cry. We do everything together. That timer went off. Let me tell you, I am now doing the train instructor. I'm going after Aqua Fitness. Everything that they did for me because they poured in me, I'm pouring back. Bartlett's mission is to be a place that offers high quality of life from childhood to retirement. Let us choose the welcoming of the YMCA in tandem with our city mission. It's a win-win to have our assets, our building, in cooperation with the additional resources that the YMCA has to offer. for the culture of the city to live in the
That's
growth.
the timer. The timer for the public hearing is over.
Thank you. Ma'am, because you was standing in the line, I'm going to let you speak.
Good evening. My name is Ann Seidel, Cordova, 3816. I am a personal trainer, a yoga teacher, a group fitness instructor at both the YMCA and the Bartlett Rec Center, and that is why I'm here today. I teach a variety of classes at these facilities, but my passion is senior fitness. I love working with senior citizens, whether it's yoga, chair fitness, one-on-one personal trainings on the water. As a fitness professional, I feel that it's with the seniors that I can make the greatest impact. And healthy living is all about these building the relationships, building community, moving our bodies, and having fun. We have a lot of fun, and I love it. I teach a variety of classes, as I mentioned. I'm at more than one Y, in fact. I teach at multiple Y branches, and they are all very different. I teach at the Bartlett Rec Center, and that is unique as well, and I love it all. And so what I'm trying to say is already been said before, that each Y has its unique culture, each Y branch has its unique culture, and that is not something that I believe would change. That's, in my experience, they're all very different. They're all wonderful. I love my job. I love what I do, and I'm so excited to be a part of this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. I know a lot of folks have sat here for 3 hours, and this is a public hearing. And I want to make sure that you sat here for 3 hours, and there's anything you would like to say that's on this item of the Bartlett Rec Center, I want you to come to the mic. I will still give you the opportunity to come and say and speak. Does anybody else have anything they wish to say about our current management or the YMCA? Please come to the microphone and speak at this time.
Good evening again. Mike Sisson, 3880. Good grief, I can't even remember my address. 3882 Haynes Road. I became a Bartlett Rec member this year because I decided there was entirely too much of me and I needed there to be less of me. I use the gym, both the weight room and the cardio rooms 3 to 5 times a week. I think it's fantastic. I was skeptical of the idea of handing yet another city service over to a third party. I think that city stuff more or less should stay within the city, but I think that the transition to the Y would be a great thing for Memphis, or excuse me, for Bartlett and for the members at the rec. The only thing that I have any hesitancy on is the length of the lease. If that can be renegotiated 10 years with 5-year renewals or something like that, I think that would be in the best fiscal interest of the city, because who knows, maybe this doesn't work out as wonderful as everybody thinks it is, and it would be a shame to get tied into something that's broken at that point. Other than that, I think the rec is great. I think the plans that the Y have is great, and I'd love to get new weight machines.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Seeing no one else coming forward, y'all have sat here for 3 hours, and I think we'll take a 10-minute recess before we move to unfinished business. So avail yourself to the restrooms and the water fountain. Please make your way to your seat, please. Hopefully everyone feels better. We will reconvene the board meeting and move to the next item on the agenda, which is unfinished business. Madam Clerk, will you read item number 1 under unfinished business into the record, please?
Third reading of Ordinance 23-08, an ordinance to amend the City of Bartlett zoning ordinance by amending Article 1, Section 2, definitions to add smoke shop and tobacco store, and to amend Article 5, Chart 1, uses permitted to add smoke shops and tobacco stores in certain zoning districts with a special use permit.
Move we approve.
Second. Properly motioned and second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, will you please put the roll on the board? Ordinance 2308 passes unanimous. Madam Clerk, will you read item number 2 into the record, please?
Third reading of ordinance 23-09, an ordinance to amend the City of Bartlett zoning ordinance by amending Article 1, Section 2 definitions to add hookah lounge and other smoking lounges, and to amend Article 5, Chart 1, uses permitted to add hookah lounges and other smoking lounges in the CH Highway Business Zoning District with a special use permit.
Move we approve.
Second.
Been properly motioned by Alderman Reeves and seconded by Alderman King. Is there any discussion on item number 2? Chair hearing no discussion. Madam Clerk, will you please put the roll on? Ordinance 2309 passes unanimous. Madam Clerk, will you read item number 3 into the record, please?
Third reading of ordinance 23-10, an ordinance to amend the City of Bartlett zoning ordinance by amending Article 1, Section 2 definitions to add small box retail stores, liquidation stores, and liquidation warehouse sellers, and to amend Article 5, Chart 1, uses permitted to add small box retail stores, liquidation retail stores, and liquidation warehouse sellers in certain zoning districts with a special use permit, and to add to Article 6, supplementary district regulations, Section 31, small box retail stores.
Move we approve.
Been properly motioned by Alderman Quinn.
Second.
And seconded by Vice Mayor Jack Young. Any discussion on ordinance 2310? Seeing no one wish to discuss this item, Madam Clerk, will you move it to the roll to the board, please? Ordinance 23-10 passes unanimous. Madam Clerk, will you read item number 4 into the record, please?
Third reading of ordinance 23-11, an ordinance amending Title II, Chapter 6, Section 2-601, membership of the codified ordinances of the City of Bartlett, Tennessee, to be consistent with state law by permitting a person designated by the mayor to serve on the Planning Commission in lieu of the mayor.
Move we approve.
I'm sorry, I
didn't hear that. Can you read that again, please, sir?
So we had a properly motioned by Vice Mayor Jack Young and seconded by David Reeves. Any discussion on ordinance 2311? Hearing no discussion on item 2311. Madam Clerk, will you please put
Take a breath.
item 2311 passes unanimous. Madam Clerk, read at whatever speed you can item number 5.
Third reading of ordinance 23-12, an ordinance to amend Title II, Chapter 5, Section 501, City Beautiful Commission of the City of Bartlett Code of Ordinances to stagger the terms of members serving on the City Beautiful Commission.
Move we approve.
Properly motioned by Alderman Griffin and seconded by Alderman King. Any discussion on item number 5? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please put the roll on the board. Ordinance 2312 passes unanimous. We move into the consent agenda. Any member of the board remove any item for separate discussion. Does any member wish to remove anything from the consent agenda for separate discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you read the consent agenda into the record, please?
Item 1, special event permit for Memphis Runners Track Club Winter Off-Road Series 8K. Item 2, January 2024 Planning Commission report. Item 3, authorization to auction surplus property. Item 4, Treasurer's report for November 2023.
Move we approve.
Been properly motioned and second. Is any discussion on the consent agenda? If not, Madam Clerk, will you put the roll on the board, please, for us? Consent agenda is approved, unanimous. We now move to new business. Madam Clerk, will you read item number 1 into the record under new business?
Contract with Avenue Insights and Analytics for managed services for the Bartlett Public Library.
Move we approve.
Been properly motioned.
Second.
Been properly second. Any discussion?
Yes. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to amend this to give the city, Memphis Public Libraries 1 month from today to get us the financial information and to amend the contract we have with them to allow this to happen. Well, as far as like the extra month without giving the extra notice.
Is there a second on the amendment? The amendment fails for lack of a second. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, will you please place the roll call on the board, please? I'm sorry. Alderman Reeves has requested we do a voice roll call. So at this time, Madam Clerk, will you call the voice roll call?
Yes. Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Griffin?
No.
Alderman Reeves?
Yes.
Alderman Williams?
Yes.
Alderman Young?
Yes.
Alderman Quinn?
No.
Contract with Avenue passes 4-2. Madam Clerk, will you read item number 2 into the record, please, under new business?
Contract with the YMCA for managed services for the Bartlett Recreation Center.
Properly motioned.
Second.
Properly second. Any discussion? Vice Mayor Young, you're recognized.
I would just like to make one point. There was some discussion during the public hearing about control, and nowhere did we go into the three-legged stool concept. It's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mayor, that there'll be 2 representatives from the Y, Mr. Wright from Parks and Rec on this, and then each alderman will appoint one individual to serve on the advisory committee, and between that group and the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, there will be an opportunity to correct anything, look at price increases, deal with issues that come up like that. And I don't think that was discussed. I want to make sure everyone was aware of that.
Thank you, Alderman Young. Alderman King.
I'd like to address one thing about not allowing other members in. So they have to scan a card. If it doesn't scan, then they're not able. And I mean, you don't have a problem with people just not obeying that rule. If they do, you would call the police or control. You don't have a problem with that control. Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Alderman Quinn.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everybody for participating in this, I wouldn't say exercise, but I guess that's not to be a pun. But it's been very useful information, something we've been, looking at, I think, for several years, just watching the money. And just, I'll let you know, I actually served on the Y board downtown. It was the Abe Schraff place that was open at one time. I was a member of the Y. I've been a member of the Rec Center for a long time. I really appreciate what the Y does in the community. I was able, I guess back in late spring or summer, they had an elected officials luncheon. Got a tour of the facilities to see the things they do is very important to me as a Shelby County citizen, is them helping children and families in there. I really do appreciate that. But I'll just say, I think that the Y has proven the viability of the rec center, and I appreciate them doing that. And it shows me, though, that we still could do something with it. We can't go back and recoup all the losses that we've had. And I don't want to get into the debate about woulda, coulda. Was it built right? Should we add an outdoor pool at a time? A lot of things in the past. There's no point in working on that. But I believe, just like an exercise, the short-term pain for the long-term gain. And I hate to give away. Not give away. That's the wrong word. I apologize. Let somebody else manage a fantastic asset like the rec center for 25 years. And so I just can't support it in that aspect. But I really appreciate everything that the Y does. And like I say, I have a history with the Y, and will continue to support the Y in any way I can. Thank you.
Alderman Reeves.
Just a quick question on the 25-year term. If I could get an answer on this, could you come up? So I assume from a business return viewpoint, the 25 years is meant to, if you're going to invest X number of dollars, to make sure you have the capability to recoup that, or is just 25 years your standard language? What's the 25-year term really about?
it's really about, the investment that the Y will be making into the facility or the property, and that facility and property actually will be, we'll put an outdoor pool in, but that's actually Bartlett, the city of Bartlett's asset that we're investing into. So it's exactly what you said, meant to recoup the money that we have put into the facility and over that length of time. And there is, just to throw that out there, in the contract, there is a termination clause. If we don't do the things that we say that we're going to do, there still is an option to terminate.
So there's definitely very specific performance language in it that if you do not perform, we have the capability to terminate.
That's right.
Okay, that's all I need. Thank you.
Alderman Williams.
Just a statement. I've said this and spoken to many of the employees of the rec. My biggest thing is the human resource side of it. With the deficit that we have, and just looking at it, even though it's a city-run, facility and funded facility, at some point you got to make up for where you're losing money, and that in the highest part of it is payroll. So that, looking from a business standpoint, what would you have to do? You probably would have to let people go, and I would love for it to stay the rec. Like I said, I learned how to swim at the rec. My daughter learned how to swim at the Y. But I had to look at all of your faces and say, I want you guys to be able to stay employed, and you're all Bartlett residents like myself. So we haven't voted yet, but I just can't see us the amount of money that we've lost already, and then trying to put money in or figure out ways to do it. I just don't think we have the time to do that without it affecting you all. So I just wanted to put that, my vote is really about the employees and ensuring that you all have a place to work, to be honest.
Anyone else wish to be recognized? So if no one else seeking to be recognized, Madam Clerk, will you do the voice?
Starting with position 2, Alderman Griffin?
Yes.
Alderman Reeves? Alderman Williams?
Yes.
Alderman Young?
Yes.
Alderman Quinn?
No.
Alderman King?
Yes.
Contract passes 5-1. Madam Clerk, will you read item number 3 into the record, please?
These next few ones are only to set the public hearing. Set a public hearing for February 13th, 2024 for Resolution 01-24, resolution to annex the Ann Dunlap Warlick trustee of the Ann Dunlap Warlick Living Trust property, known as parcel IDs D0137001114 and D0137001113, as shown on the tax map number 73 in the Shelby County Tax Assessor's Office, and being a parcel of land conveyed to the Ann Dunlap Warlick trustee of the Ann Dunlap Warlick Living Trust property by deed, recording an instrument 21094025 in the Shelby County Register of Deeds Office upon written consent of the owners, and to incorporate the same within the boundaries of the city of Bartlett of Tennessee.
Second.
Please set the public hearing. Been properly motioned and second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please put the roll on the board, please. Resolution passes unanimous. Madam Clerk, please read item number 4 in the record.
Set a public hearing for February 13th, 2024 for Resolution 02-24, resolution calling for a public hearing on the proposed annexation of the Ann Dunlap Warlick trustee of the Ann Dunlap Warlick Living Trust property, known as parcel IDs D0137001114 and D0137001113, as shown on the tax map number 73 in the Shelby County Tax Assessor's Office, and being a parcel of land conveyed to the Ann Dunlap Warlick trustee of the Ann Dunlap Warlick Living Trust property by deed, recorded in instrument 21094025 in the Shelby County Register of Deeds Office upon written consent of the owners and approving a plan of services.
Thank you again. The purpose is to set the public hearing for February the 13th.
Move we approve and set the public hearing for February 13th, 2024.
Properly motioned. Properly second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Madam Clerk, will you put item number 4 on the... Public hearing is set and passes unanimous. Do you need to take another deep breath before we go to number 5?
Set a public hearing for February 13th, 2024 for Resolution 03-24, resolution to annex the Gordon Marshall property known as parcel ID D0147000014 as shown on the tax map number 73 in the Shelby County Tax Assessor's Office and being a parcel of land conveyed to Gordon D. Marshall by deed recording in instrument DE 51080 in the Shelby County Register of Deeds Office upon written consent of the owners and to incorporate the same within the boundaries of the city of Bartlett, Tennessee.
Again, the purpose is to set the public hearing for February the 13th.
I move we approve and set the public hearing for February 13th.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Young.
Second.
Been properly seconded by either Brad or Robert. They can flip a coin. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Madam Clerk, please put the roll of resolution on the board. Resolution passes unanimous. Madam Clerk, will you please read item number 6 into the record, please?
Set a public hearing for February 13th, 2024 for Resolution 04-24, resolution calling for a public hearing on the proposed annexation of the Gordon Marshall property known as parcel ID D0147000014 as shown on the tax map number 73 in the Shelby County Tax Assessor's Office and being a parcel of land conveyed to Gordon D. Marshall by deed recorded in instrument DE 5180 in the Shelby County Register of Deeds Office upon written consent of the owners and approving a plan of services.
Move we approve, set the hearing for February 13th, 2024.
Second.
Been properly motioned by Alderman Reeves and seconded by Alderman Griffiths. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Madam Clerk, will you please place it on the roll on the screen? Resolution passes unanimous. Now moving to item number 7.
Resolution 05-24, resolution to amend the fiscal year 2024 general fund budget to recognize Shelby County District Attorney General's Office grant award totaling $30,000 to the Bartlett Police Department for public safety purposes.
For a short explanation, we have Mr. Dick Phoebus from our finance.
This is a resolution to approve a grant from Shelby County District Attorney's Office, $30,000 to the Bartlett Police Department, $30,000 for overtime expenses.
Move we approve.
Been properly motioned by Alderman Griffith.
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Young. Any discussion on Resolution 05-24? Hearing no discussion, Madam Clerk, please place Resolution 05-24 on the board. It's a unanimous decision to get $30,000 for that. Madam Clerk, will you read item number 8 into the record, please?
First reading of Ordinance 24-01, an ordinance to rezone from CA, Conservation Agriculture, to IO, Wholesale and Warehouse, and from AO, Agricultural and Open Land, to IO, Wholesale and Warehouse property on the northeast corner of Singleton Parkway at Bolin Hughes. Set the public hearing is to be set for February 13th, 2024.
For an explanation from the city, Ms. Kim Taylor, Director of Planning and Economic Development.
Ordinance 2401 is an ordinance to rezone both the Warlick properties and the Gordon Marshall properties that were currently a conjunctive request for the annexation properties that you currently set the public hearing date for. The properties will be rezoned for the county from the county CA Conservation Agricultural Zoning District to the IO Wholesale and Warehouse District, which is a city designation. One of the properties is not currently being annexed, but is currently in the city of Bartlett's jurisdiction, and that too will be rezoned from AG, which is agricultural, to the IO Wholesale and Warehouse use. The proposed rezoning is at the request of the property owners that are being annexed into the city. Based on the rezoning, both the Warlick and the Marshall families requested the IO because it is a light industrial category and it offers the most uses for that particular district. The rezoning is also in line with our 2010 master plan for the city, which shows that it should be a large employment area. This has gone before the Planning Commission on January 2nd, 2024, and it comes to you with a favorable recommendation.
Move we approve and set the hearing for February 13th.
Second.
Been properly motioned by Alderman Reeves and second by Alderman Griffith. Is there any discussion on ordinance 2401? Seeing no one wishing to be recognized, Madam Clerk, will you please pass? Motion, ordinance 24-01 passes unanimous. We now move to open discussion. Discussion is open to the board first. Does any board member wish to be recognized this time to speak on any subject? Is that a hand up or hand out or okay, nothing. All right. Nobody from the board wishes to speak. We open the floor to directors. Any director, any audits have anything they wish to inform the citizens about? Seeing no director step forward. At this time, if there's any citizens completed open discussion form prior to the start of the meeting, they may come forward and state their name and address for the record. The citizen may up to 3 minutes, at which time a buzzer will sound, they must sit down. The total time limit for open discussion is 20 minutes. Any citizen wish to come to the microphone and speak to the board? David, you coming, going, or just standing up? Yeah. Way past his bedtime. So, seeing no one wish to come forward at this time, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. Been properly seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Thank you, folks, for sticking with us to 9:35.